Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
As always, we want to remind you guys to check us out on all our socials. Adam, you want to run those down for everybody?
Absolutely. You can find all of our uploads on YouTube at youtube.com/at Smark Foundation Podcast. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, our official podcast handle is at Smark FNDN Pod. If you want to get a hold of me specifically, I'm at Adam SMRK FNDN Pod, and Aaron is at Smark Pod Aaron. And we also have our shop. If you want to support us by buying any of our merchandise, you can find us at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me.
Fantastic. We will definitely wish you guys would check out our store. We have a really great hoodie on there, a zip up and a pullover, as well as our t-shirt and a coffee mug, all with Adam's hand-drawn logo on there. Support us any way you can. Please, we love all the support we're already getting, and we really appreciate you guys. Once again, shouting out our overseas friends in the UK and Finland, still kicking it with us after all these weeks. I love seeing those things pop up when I go.
It's so cool. It's so cool. I love that. That we have, tiny as it is, it's this overreach that we have across the Atlantic that could not be cooler in my eyes. It's very, very, very. We're very gracious regarding it. Thank you, whoever y'all are, for hanging in there with us and giving us your time, a couple hours every week. It really means a lot to us.
Heck yeah, we really appreciate it, you guys. And this week we are, as you heard at the beginning of the podcast there, we have a brand new theme song. It was written and produced and recorded for us by Adam's brother, Garrett. Adam, go ahead and give us a word on that.
My brother Garrett was gracious enough to craft us just an awesome piece of music. We wanted a Jimmy Hart version of a Jimmy Hart track, and that's exactly what we got. We couldn't be happier. If you wanted to reach out to him, it's Garrett Deming, Garrett Deming, Deming. I asked him if there was anything that he would like me to promote, and I said that I would use this exact quote. Sure thing. You can tell them to listen to Garrett Stein and the Outlaw Jackalopes and tell them to send me silly fan mail. Ha ha. So please do that.
Definitely do that.
You can find that. That's actually not a joke. You can find that on YouTube. He has about 3 songs uploaded and a whole bunch of stuff from when he was living in Sweden. So if you want to check that out, please check out that YouTube. Just look up pardon me. Look up Garrett Stein and the Outlaw Jackalopes.
Heck yeah, we're gonna have to check that one out. But yeah, thank you, Garrett, for our awesome theme music. Is everything I wanted.
It's been running through my brain for the last 2 weeks as it's been workshopped. It's fantastic. I love it.
It is fantastic. So yeah, with that all out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and get right into our lockup, which is our Raw review for the week. Again, I'm gonna go even a little bit more truncated than I did last week. I'm not gonna go step by step through these shows. I'm gonna do just what my boy Adam did. I'm gonna be like, I like this, I didn't like this, and that's what it is. For Raw this week, we had a triple threat tag match for the number one contendership to the tag team champions, who are the Judgment Day. Last week, I think I got it mixed up and said Motor City Machine Guns were these tag team champions. That's not the case. They're SmackDown. So the Raw is Judgment Day. Number one contender tournament happened. They had all those cool 3-way matches we were talking about with the every team has a legal guy. They continued that format in this match.
That's great.
So
that's great. I was
super happy with that. Super happy. Anyway, it was New Day versus the Mysterio versus LWO, which is Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus the War Raiders. Now, going into this match, this is one of the I loved it because with those 3 teams, I had no idea who was going to win. No idea at all.
Isn't that the best?
I love it.
I love it.
I love when I can't predict things. So big up on Raw for this one.
When you've been wrestling fans for almost your entire life, as long as you can remember. There's not much you haven't seen. So
Mhm.
anytime you legitimately could have a pick 'em, it's fantastic. It allows you to immerse yourself more than you normally would be able to.
Absolutely. And this was a great immersive match. Everybody was kind of playing out the stories that they have going on. The War Raiders with their return being super dominant. A little bit of tension with the New Day with their, with Xavier still kind of being a dickhead. I don't know where they're going with this still. I think Xavier might just be a dickhead now. I don't know if I like that part. But they haven't really pulled the trigger on anything. And Final Testament isn't coming out and hanging out at their matches anymore. So I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, War Raiders pick up the win on this one, which totally surprised me. And I'm super happy about because now I get War Raiders versus Judgment Day, and I get to see Eric and Ivar tear up JD McDonough, which is going to be freaking great because the stuff
Yeah,
they've been doing to the little guys has been terrible in the best way.
and JD McDonough is a bump machine.
Oh, he
Like,
is a total bump machine. I'll give him his credit where it's due. He can make it look like he's getting his ass whooped with the best of them, and it's going to make
yeah,
this great. So yeah, big up on that one. Another thing I really like that I want to go ahead and get out of the way. Somebody has to be listening to us, Adam. I think somebody in AEW and somebody in WWE might be listening to us. And the reason I say this is because, and I'm going to go ahead and give this up for the entire week of WWE programming because they never spent more than 30 seconds after a commercial away from the match that was already in progress or moving to it. They did not do 3 or 4 segments. Praise Jesus. They have somehow fixed this formatting problem that I have been having. Like, I don't know who's listening to us, but thank you for listening because this made this a way more enjoyable show to watch because I didn't have to rapid fire in my brain right after a commercial to get right back to where we were before the commercial. It didn't have to happen that way. Sometimes they did have like a segment, but it was usually like maybe 30 seconds and then we were right back to the action. And I'm good with that. Even if I don't remember those segments, I'm good with how they structured it. Um, another up another thing I liked was Dominic Mysterio versus a former world champion. It ended up being Damian Priest to just
yeah,
kind of further
yeah.
this Judgment
Mm.
Day thing. Yeah, Dominic picked up the win, not really exactly clean, but clean. Um, which was weird. I couldn't have predicted that either. So that's something I like. I thought Damian would just run through Dom and that would be it because Dom's involved in all kinds of other stuff with the women's division.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was cool. Uh, Dominic still has nuclear heat. I'm always going to give him his, like I said, every week he's going to get his props for his nuclear heat until he stops having nuclear heat. Still got nuclear heat. There wasn't a lot on Raw that I didn't like. The first time ever, I may not actually have a dislike for a show
dude, that's
because
great.
Raw was good, man.
I don't like doing the dislikes.
I don't
I
either. I
don't
want
like
to
there
keep it
being the dislikes.
like
Like,
I'll say when I don't like stuff, but when I like the whole show, I mean, even okay, I'll say a low point that I still didn't dislike, but like the kind of low draggy point of the show was Zelina Vega versus Ivy Nile. But they put on a great match and it was cool, man. So that was like
oh,
the
God
least
forbid
enjoyable.
it's only good and not great.
Yeah, that was the least enjoyable part of a really enjoyable show, but it was enjoyable. That's the thing. Like I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying I maybe didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other stuff, but it was good. There was nothing wrong with it. So
Yeah,
yeah, no downs for Raw this week. None at all. They fixed the formatting problem. Like that gave it that's a golden love right there.
yeah.
They fixed the formatting issue across WWE programming this week. But yeah, the show was pretty good altogether. I actually really enjoyed it. So WWE, if there is somebody from y'all listening, thank you because what you've done is you've turned my normally going into this, because I've been hurt by WWE before, and I'll continue to say that. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the show. There was nothing about it that hurt me. Of course, there was stuff on it. Everything that was building towards this weekend's event, but really, it was still just a really good episode of Raw. One funny thing though, they always have these guys carrying these crown jewel championships around in a big black case, and the guys are always wearing white gloves. But I want to know why they're wearing the white gloves because they never touch the belt. They have to wear the white gloves to carry the
Yeah.
case. I don't know, but it's funny. They like literally every show in the past 3 weeks and the ones this week have opened with this scene of them carrying these titles in these cases, and they're wearing white gloves. I'm like, why? But
My
other
question
than
is
that,
why they're carrying it in a case. Like we already know what it looks like.
yeah, I don't know,
Like
ugly as sin, and
yeah, oof,
I've seen it
yeah,
on Cody and on Liv, and it goes from like nuts to
oof,
nipples, so it's even ugly.
yeah,
It's too big. And
yeah,
on Liv, it's like it might as well be a corset, like because it's
yeah.
here.
She's not a tall
No,
person
she's little bitty.
at all.
So, but yeah. So other than that, Raw super awesome this week. I mean, this is totally unexpected, but yeah, Raw was freaking great, man.
That's that's awesome. Like the goal of any entertainment show is to not have anything that could have been seen as a major downfall or need huge improvement. So, yeah, good on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh wait. One more thing I do need to mention. Jimmy and Jey Uso had a one-on-one in the ring. Then got attacked by the Bloodline and they fought him off. But before that, they talked about how like Jay was like, "We can do this again, but it's got to be us. They don't get us confused no more. But no more of this lackey shit. You're Jimmy, I'm Jay." Jimmy agreed to it, so it looks like we got the Usos back. So
All
just
right.
last week when I was like, man, if they would just bring us back the Usos, I'd be happy as hell. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I loved Raw this week because they brought it. The Usos are back together. Jimmy invited Jay to SmackDown to talk to Roman, and we'll get to that on the SmackDown review. But yeah, we officially kind of got the Usos back like right here, and I'm so happy about it.
So, do you think that that's why they ultimately decided to go with the short Intercontinental title reign to give him a belt, to give him a slight reward, knowing that they were going to put him back with Jimmy anyway, so that at least he got something out of this main event thing?
Even if that wasn't the initial plan, it works in the end.
Yeah,
So I'm with
kind
it.
of
I'm with it.
retroactively. Yeah,
Yeah, especially with the machine guns being here and this whole like the whole tag division on both sides heating up like crazy. The War Raiders are back. The machine guns are here. The Usos
yeah.
are back now. I'm excited about tag team wrestling in WWE, and I haven't been in a long time. So,
You're about to be excited by tag team wrestling in general. Let me tell you.
oh boy, I tell you what, I watched all the AEW this week too, and I mean, you're right.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
but
But yeah,
like
that's Raw,
that's
man.
yeah, I'm glad. God, I am so glad tag team wrestling is back. Tag team
Yes,
wrestling is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It's dramatic. You've got literally everything. I know why Vince McMahon always hated tag team wrestling because you know the story goes, well, why would I pay four guys to have one match when I could pay four guys to have two matches, two singles matches? Like I get the business sense of it. I also think that that's a load of crap because
it
tag
is.
team wrestling is fantastic and can and should main event shows where applicable. Like it
Yeah,
absolutely can, should, and you know you get the right reactions from the crowd. It doesn't matter whatever niche of wrestling it is, it should go in the main event as long as it's justified by the reactions that the crowds are giving it. Like,
yep.
why not tag team wrestling? Some of my favorite matches of the past several years have been tag team matches. The FTR versus Bullet Club Gold. Holy cow! Like, I, I, I can. There are few TV matches that I can name offhand that are as good or better than that match
Mm-hmm.
from last year. It's incredible. Like tag team wrestling is I don't know. It's the bee's knees, man. What can I say?
Dude, I love it.
I love tag team
You
wrestling.
know, lately I've taken to when somebody around me finds out I like wrestling who didn't know already, because I don't hide it. I tell people I like wrestling. I work at wrestling, like, and I've seen people who have like made fun of me because of my involvement in wrestling or my like of wrestling at wrestling shows that I've worked. So they can kiss my ass. Y'all bought a ticket. Fuck you.
Yeah,
But when people say that nasty F word about wrestling around me,
yeah.
I have taken to showing them one of the Briscoe FTR trio of matches. especially
Oh,
the
one of
ladder
those
match or the dog
bloodbaths.
collar match.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of those. I'm like, you said, oh, is it? Oh, it's fake. No, let me show
yeah,
you the difference between fake and scripted, baby. Here you go.
yeah. It is predetermined. It's not. I hate it because it's the worst argument. It's the most common argument, but it's literally the worst argument you can make. Like, if
Yep.
it's not to your taste, that's fine because everybody's individual taste is different. Nothing has to be to anyone's particular taste. But saying wrestling is fake when literally every other program that you watch on TV, unless it's like a game show, you know, a documentary, or although this is thrown into question lately, news programs, like everything else you watch is fake. You
Yeah,
think there are actual
everything.
dragons running around? You think it's so stupid?
Yeah.
It's the stupidest argument.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, the best here's the best for anybody who wants to talk about wrestling being fake. Let me explain, or anybody who might be skeptical of wrestling who's listening to this, because I know for a fact that this week we're going to have a couple of extra listeners out of my Call of Duty squad, and they're guys who don't even watch wrestling. And some
well,
of
there you
them
go.
have mentioned the fake thing to me. So here, let me squash this right here, and this will make it very easy on both of us to explain to people. I am a referee for professional wrestling, which means I am not a wrestling competitor. Okay, I have had injured kidneys, injured ribs. I have had such a severe contusion on my ribs that I could not walk or breathe properly. I have a permanent recurring case of plantar fasciitis. I have cracked my tailbone, and I have had more black eyes and busted lips than I can count. I am a referee.
Man, y'all referees really are fragile, ain't you?
I'm not fragile, but that's like I. But that's how many times I've been hurt, and I'm just a referee. I am not
Yeah.
a competitor who falls regularly. Like I slide a lot and stuff like that. And a lot of my injuries have come from just normal refereeing stuff or taking ref bumps. Like I do take bumps, but I take ref bumps. But my very first black eye in wrestling came from the heel of someone's foot because he told me, turn your head and it won't be as bad as if you didn't turn your head.
They
So
were
I
gonna
turned
hit you
my head.
regardless.
Yeah, he was going to kick me in the fucking nose, or I was going to turn my head and catch it in the cheek. And I caught it. And I turned my head and caught it in the cheek. You should see one of these days. I'm going to upload this video to YouTube of my very first wrestling match where I took a referee bump because Katie filmed it from the crowd. I
Okay.
did not smarten her up to it. She did not know it was going to happen. So you can see the kick clear as day and see exactly what happened to me and the very real reaction that I had after the kick, which was just to fall the fuck over.
Yeah.
And then you can hear her reaction in the crowd that was very real.
I bet she was
I got to find that
really, really
video so I can
mad.
upload it. She wasn't mad at me. She was very concerned. And then, but she knew, like, she was smart to the business. But when I say I didn't smarten her up, it's I didn't smarten her. I didn't tell
To
her,
this
hey,
particular
this is
thing. Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't ever tell anybody shit like that's happening. That stays in the locker room, even for my wife,
Well, yeah,
you know?
because
So,
I mean, unless it's going to be really dangerous and you want to assuage those fears, then it takes away you know, the beats and the flow of the match. Like, if
mm-hmm.
you want people to go on the ride with you, maybe don't spoil it for them.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean,
I
so
get
yeah,
that.
that's my final word on whether or not it's fake. I've been hurt a lot, and I just referee. So,
How do you hurt your kidneys?
um, that was actually a training injury. Running the
Ugh.
ropes, learning how to run the
Oh,
ropes.
that makes sense.
Because yeah, when I first started
Yeah,
training,
that
I was
middle rope.
training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was training to be a wrestler.
Right.
The
Yeah.
refereeing thing, I mean, I just kind of aged out. Like I didn't have time to train all the time, but I had enough time to train to be a referee. And then once I started working as a referee, they didn't care if I trained anymore because I was good at it. So, um, I did train. I was in training for 6 months or almost a year, say in between 6 months and a year before I ever stepped foot in an actual wrestling competition as a referee. I worked security and all kinds of other roles. And between that time, while I was a trainee, I paid my due. I put rings together. I still put rings together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I've done all that stuff. But yeah, like when I first started training, I trained to be a wrestler. And so one of the first things you learn is how to run the ropes. And yeah, I had like bruises across my flank underneath my underarm, and I was hitting them wrong at first, so I
Well,
bruised my
everybody
kidney.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody does. They told me it was
Yeah.
gonna. They were like, you might have some kidney issues for the next few days. I was like, okay. I laughed it off, and then they were right. So
Oof, rough.
yeah,
Ugh. Your poor toilet.
it's just training, man. Like that's not even getting into it yet. The guys in WWE have done that shit. Like a lot of those guys have done that shit
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, so that was our lockup. So now it's time for the shot.
Shine, baby. Shine.
Give it to me.
All right. So, Dynamite, just like WWE was apparently really good this weekend, AEW also had a really good week. Like, there was some fantastic stuff. Last week, I know that the chatter, I had lots of good things to say last week. I happened to err on the positive side of wrestling. I'm pretty easy to please for the most part, wrestling wise, anyway.
Mhm.
But like, I know that the chatter online was that, oh, last week was kind of a dud, blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel the same way, but I think that I am now for this week in the vast majority and saying this week rocked. Like it was a great week for AEW. Dynamite opened up with they opened up with something else, but the opening match was Adam Cole versus Buddy Matthews.
Mm.
That was Buddy Matthews is one of those guys. It's easy to overlook him. He gets lost in the shuffle with the other House of Black guys because Malachi is the leader, and he's got that, unmistakable kind of aura of mystery and sinister thing. And then there's Brody King, who's enormous, and you can't freaking miss him. And then there's Buddy Matthews, and he's kind of the odd man out, which sucks because he's probably one of those guys who should be probably not at the top end of the conversation, but he should be in the conversation for best pound for pound guys in the world. That guy can go, and he can go with anybody. He's also one of those guys. He's not super tall, but because he's super jacked, like he's like Ishii. He wrestles bigger than he is. It's believable that he can take on, a lot of different guys of a wide range of sizes and shapes because he's freaking jacked and he's I can't remember who it was, but I saw a long time ago when he first got hired, but he got let go from WWE and got signed by AEW. Somebody on my timeline said they did the meme thing where it's like, oh, we've got I want to see Kenny Omega. No, we got Kenny Omega at home, and it was Buddy Matthews. I mean, there are definite similarities there, and if you're going to have similarities to a professional wrestler to for people to make those kinds of comparisons, you could do worse than Kenny Omega.
True.
Like, you could do way worse than Kenny Omega. But yeah, he and Adam Cole have a great match. Matthews controls most of it, which kind of makes sense. I do think that they probably went a little too heavy on the ankle business.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Cole was selling the ankle to almost a cartoonish degree. It's like, dude, you just came back from injury. Like, we know your ankle is put together with cadaver bones and stuff, but like, you got cleared. So, like, come on now. I don't mind that they worked the ankle, but like to the degree they did, to the point where it was implied that it was affecting him mentally, and that it was like that wasn't for me. But the match itself was great. At one point, Cole, like he's like, oh, my ankle, and then he starts walking up the ramp with the trainers and the referees, and Matthews is like, what, you're just gonna run away, you coward? And it's like, what about is this the new Adam Cole? And Cole's like, he puts his mean mug on and he goes back, and of course he wins the dang thing. So like I thought it was great. I thought Matthews didn't come out looking any worse for it, which was great. It's always great when you can get both guys over. And I thought it was really, really good. So remember the storyline going is whoever between Adam Cole and Roderick Strong gets 3 wins first is going to be the one winding up facing MJF at Full Gear. So this was his first win. Afterwards, Matthews shakes his hand, and then the lights go out, and then they do a thing where they switch it. I don't know, like it's one of those suspension of disbelief things. The rule of cool overrules the logic of
Yeah.
this. But when the light comes back on, it's Malachi Black with his hands, and like the handshake is never broken. So I was like, that's kind of weird. But he's in
Yeah.
full. He's in dress clothes, but he's got the paint on, he's got the contacts in, and he's like staring into his soul. And Adam Cole's like, all right, I guess it's you and me then. I thought it was a great, cool bit of business, very thematic with the House of Black, their whole deal. I thought it was great, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Another good thing, Blackpool Combat Club or whatever I'm calling them, they come out and this segment I thought was very interesting. Like they say, Moxley says that Orange Cassidy, his next challenger for the world title, thinks he's in control, but Mox is still really pulling the strings. And then he orders everybody else in the BCC to attack Wheeler Yuta. And
Yeah.
they like lay him out, and it looks like they're gonna Pillmanize his neck like they did with Chuck Taylor last week. And I'm thinking, I mean, I know that this is a trap, but like, holy cow, like I bought in. Like he's really, really willing to do this. Like I bought in. It was very
Yeah.
convincing. And so obviously OC comes out, and then everybody just like piles on, and that's when people start coming out from the back. And the best thing about this wasn't the Yuta stuff. The best thing was that Private Party was the last ones to come out as everybody's clearing the ring, and on the outside, Moxley eats an orange punch. But then all of a sudden, the Young Bucks music starts hitting, and it's like, oh, we're doing this now. Like
Yeah.
the transition, it took me by surprise, and it was great. Again, one of those surprises that you can't call. I
Mm-hmm.
love it when that happens, and it made sense for the Young Bucks characters
Mm-hmm.
because, of course, they're going to take advantage of the distraction that Private Party is feeling towards these other people. Now they're going to be thinking about their friends while they're supposed to be fighting for the World Tag Team title. Like I thought that was a great way to transition into it. It put that seed of doubt, and then the match actually happens, and it's even better. Like this match had literally everything that you could wish for. Like it had callbacks. They teased dissension between Quen and Zay at one
Mm-hmm.
point when Zay accidentally hit Quen with the with the ring bell. Quen later gets they kind of make up in the middle of the match, and then Quen gets taken out all the way up the ramp and laid out on the ramp by the Young Bucks when he's not the legal man, only for Okada to come out and give him a tombstone pile driver to lay him out next to the graveyard set, which was fantastic. Amazing thematic presence there. In the middle, so Cassidy's alone and he's facing both Bucks, and they're beating the crap out of him, and they put him in the EVP trigger, or they try the EVP trigger, and he ducks, and they hit each other's knees, and so there's a little hope spot there. But then they get him, and they get him in the EVP trigger again, and he kicks out. Nobody
Mm.
kicks out of the EVP trigger.
I was surprised too.
Nobody.
I was so
I thought it
surprised.
was it. I thought it was it. I was hook, line, sinker. Thought that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at a little later, Matt hits the one winged angel, which needs, of course, that's Kenny's protected finish. So nobody can kick out of it, even if it's not applied by Kenny Omega. So that requires Quen to finally come back down to the ring and save it, which is fine.
Right.
I'm great with that. I'm great with protecting finishers. And then a couple minutes later, they as they're going for the TK driver, Quen crotches Nicholas on the top, and then they hit Gin and Juice, and Private Party's finally the World Tag Team Champions, and this huge celebration. It was so cathartic.
Oh
I,
yeah.
this was they really pushed hard the narrative of this was 5 years in the making, and I would have been so disappointed if they hadn't gone through. I wouldn't have been surprised, but I would have been so disappointed if they hadn't gone through with it. And I'm so glad they pulled the trigger, the EVP trigger, on Private Party. And that's just going to lead into what I say about Collision later. But
Oh
this
yeah.
is such a great direction that they're going in. I think they're finally, they've been slowly getting there, but they're very clearly creatively turning a corner now. It's towards
Oh
the end
yeah.
of the year, so it kind of took them a
Yeah.
while. But AEW, I think, is finally back on the track where it needs to be.
Yeah.
All right, so if there was one thing I didn't really like about this episode, it was the learning tree segment. I know that that's probably not going to surprise anybody.
Nah.
For the record, I like Brian Keith. I think honestly, I think his gimmick of just repeating things is kind of funny, and he can go in the ring. And
Oh yeah, he really can
Lar-
go.
Large William has improved so much in his time in AEW, and he is legitimately entertaining. I really don't think you can hold back on turning him babyface for too much longer. I mean, I think he's got another year tops as a heel before the crowd is just going to want him to be a babyface. Um, and Jericho is Jericho. Like, again, I really wish that he would just leave so we can miss him for the sole purpose of missing him. But he keeps these segments alive where he keeps on mentioning Jay Briscoe, and it's really annoying. Like, he already won. You won the
Mhm.
belt. You don't need to be making these tiresome, bad taste allusions to somebody who, to this specific crowd, especially, means so much.
Mhm.
The AEW audience probably, I mean, I haven't asked every single one of them, but I think it's a pretty good guess of saying that most of them were probably at least familiar with Ring of Honor's glory days before AEW was even a thing. So a lot of these people probably did have a great attachment to Jay. And like, I know it's been almost 2 years now. It doesn't feel like it. It still feels raw. It still feels fresh.
Way
And
raw.
it's, I get why it's being done, uh, but I don't particularly care for it. And as far as it went with this segment, it was just them talking. Like, it didn't set anything up really. The match that would be set up from this was done by Mark. It wasn't done by Jericho.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that I'm wondering if, I've heard a couple of rumors. I don't know how true this is, but the Tony Khan may be somewhat close to getting a Ring of Honor TV deal on a place like True TV or something like that. And so maybe he wants to do the thing where he puts the biggest name that he can, the biggest, most recognizable name that he can in the prominent spot, like he did when he put it on him the first time when they were trying to shop ROH around the first time. From a business standpoint, I get that. From a creative standpoint, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I mean, how often is Chris Jericho actually going to show up on Ring of Honor? Like, I mean, that's apparent from what I understand, since I don't really watch Ring of Honor, but I do follow people who do. And one of the primary concerns that they have is that, like, with the exception of Athena, who is amazing and is on an absolute tear of being forever women's champ down there,
Hmm.
uh, tearing it up with anybody and everybody, and making it her show essentially. With the exception of her, the Ring of Honor champions don't show up on the show. Like, they just don't.
No, because they're
Like,
on AEW.
because they're on AEW. Like, it's, if you're gonna do the separate brand thing, I understand wanting to have those champions appear on the show in order to try to boost the Ring of Honor brand. There's a certain logic to that. But if you don't put those people that, if you're trying to lure people from AEW to also watch ROH, you need to have the same people that you're luring them with on both shows. It
Yeah.
doesn't work otherwise. It just feels like you're being lied to at that point.
Yeah.
and nobody likes to be lied to. So like it's Jericho he says that he wants to bring Ring of Honor back to prominence, and to heights it's not seen in a while. And I know it's a promo, but I really hope that they take that tact seriously. Time will tell to see if it does, but for me, this segment did nothing because I don't really believe that it's actually going to amount to anything. It was somebody else could have benefited from that TV time.
Mm-hmm.
To finish off the shine now, Shelton Benjamin versus Swerve Strickland was your main event, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Shelton Benjamin has been a beast.
Yeah, yeah, I like it.
He has it's a different style for him. I think he benefits a lot with the average smaller size of the AEW roster in comparison to WWE, where he came from. Because the WWE, it's still kind of the land of the giants. Even their smaller guys are tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like Seth Rollins is 6'4". Think about that. The way that he wrestles, that guy is 6'4". Okay, their smaller guys are still kind of big.
Yeah.
So somebody like Shelton Benjamin, who's a big dude himself, in comparison to the general populace at around 6'2", and probably walking around at 240, 250. Um, that's a big guy. That's a big guy. And, so when you pit him up against, I mean, not somebody like a Swerve Strickland, but like they put him against two smaller guys in Sammy Guevara and especially Leo Rush, who's small for any crowd. But
Mm-hmm.
like he's had the opportunity to wrestle a completely different style where he's almost Brock Lesnar like in his
Yeah.
approach. His offense is far more differentiated, but he's got the ability now to do the pacing where it's slow and deliberate while he's chucking guys all over the place. Like, and with
Love
his
that.
age, like the dude is like 48 or something like that. So that style really, I mean, he's still a freak athlete, but age catches up to everybody, and he probably can't do the marathons that he used to be able to do. So that
Yeah.
style benefits him from an energy standpoint as well. So everybody wins there because Benjamin looks like a beast. He gets to have matches with all these new opponents with great, great matchups. He gets to, wrestle a style that benefits him in the long run because he can afford to be the big guy in the match for once, instead
Mm-hmm.
of the guy who's fighting from underneath and has to take a drubbing and then do all the high spots. Like he's looked incredible, and this match with Swerve was, different from the other two because Swerve's a big dude too, bigger, well, at least a bigger dude. But I think both of them really benefited from it. Swerve
Mm-hmm.
finally wrestled like a baby face. Like that's the thing. Like because just like we always talk about, Adam Page is not the heel. Swerve Strickland had a baby face.
Mm-mm.
Like that's one of the big, people were cheering him, but he didn't wrestle like a baby face. He wrestled like a heel.
Yeah.
He was the heel basically facing in Christian Cage another heel, and then the preeminent baby face in the company, Will Ospreay and Daniel Bryan. He was he was the heel like the whole time, even though he was meant to be cheered or whatever. It was a very weird situation. This time, I think he took the time off as a reset. He showed his loyalty to Prince Nana. He still has an edge, but he's got far more babyface characteristics now coming off the injury. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
going to serve him well going forward because if they're going to book him as a babyface, he may as well act like one.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that means that his babyface run will actually last longer because he's going to be giving the fans what they want. So
Yeah.
he wrestled from underneath. He took his drubbing and he got he got his shots in, but like I wouldn't say he was in control of the match for the majority of it. So but he still beat Shelton Benjamin clean. Swerve stomp, give Benjamin a loss that doesn't do him any harm because he lost to a former world champion, the most
Yeah.
recent, not the most recent, but the second most recent world champion. Um, And then MVP gets on the phone. And I thought this was a great way to do that because like I can't remember a time that anybody has done this. He gets on the phone, he's like, yeah, we need you. And then all of a sudden, all the lights go out and Bobby Lashley makes his debut with some freaking banger music from Mikey Ruckus.
Mm-hmm. It
Like
was cool.
Mikey Ruckus is not he as bad as Def Rebel is. Mikey Ruckus is the exact opposite. He is on a tear of making fantastic music for people right now. He's got the big timpani drums, like it. I am not a Bobby Lashley fan. I think he's a black hole of charisma. I think that he does a couple things well, but I'm not really interested in him.
Mm-hmm.
But that presentation could not have been better for him. He was presented as a big deal. He had great music. He came out looking fresh with the pleather suit. He
Yeah.
destroyed Swerve Strickland. Had him the last shot of the show was him having Strickland in the full Nelson passed out with drool hanging from his chin. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was with all the rest of the Hurt Syndicate now mostly fully formed. I still think they're going to get at least one more
Yeah.
member because they have
I
to
think too.
replace. I think probably two as well. I think they'll have a tag team of two smaller guys, but they have to replace Cedric, right? So
Mm-hmm.
because they can't get Cedric because he re-signed to WWE. So I think it's probably going to wind up being Leo Rush and maybe one other person.
Max
Uh,
Caster.
maybe Max Caster. That makes me upset though because I really want to
It
see
upsets me
my
too, but if you look at the last two or three times they interacted with the Acclaim, just watch Max's face
yeah
during those interactions, man. It says it all.
yeah. Oh, I'll bring it up on Collision.
Like
But
he even kept the card. Like when they handed him that
yeah,
card the first time, like Anthony,
yeah.
we don't want nothing to do with it, but he just
He just discreetly put it in his
put it in
pocket.
his
It comes up
pocket.
on
Yeah.
Collision,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I don't want that because I want my fantasy of yeah, you were my sister. I've never
Mm-hmm.
really paid you back for that, so I'm going to destroy you, Max Cast. That's what I
Yeah.
want. If that and if Caster wasn't on this whole I'm the greatest wrestler in the world or whatever garbage that he's got going on. I would say that you could use that as an initiation, right? He wants it so bad that he's willing to go through and take his licking, but that
Yeah.
doesn't really fit with the character that he has at the moment. So sadly, my fantasy will not come to fruition. I don't think. I think you're right. I think it's going to be Leo and Max. But
Yeah.
either way, the match and the night ended on a real high note after an overwhelmingly good card, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Like the learning tree stuff notwithstanding, honestly, it was a nowhere segment, but it didn't take that long. It wasn't like that time could have gone to somebody else, but at the same time, it could have been worse. It could have been real worse. So ultimately, I thought this is a great episode. So yeah, let's go to the
Yeah.
Morton.
It was really good. Heck yeah. Time for that Morton spot. So, this week's SmackDown. I also thought it was good. It was obviously a pre-tape. I mean, SmackDown's always pre-tape, I'm pretty sure, but it was obviously pre-tape because everybody's on their way to Crown Jewel.
I think
Um,
it's live most of the time. I
oh,
want to
is
say
it?
it's live.
I'm not
It's a
sure.
live.
I'm not sure.
I think it's a live show most of the time, but because of Saudi Arabia, the trip they're going on, yeah, I know that they did it back to back. Last week was live, and I think this week was taped on that same day.
Yeah. So, it was basically just a pre-Crown Jewel show. Liv Morgan and Nia Jax had a face-off. Where Tiffany Stratton, I liked this a lot. Tiffany Stratton was like, if I cash in this case on Liv and take your title, does he come with me too? And that legitimately incensed Liv. Like she was happy and laughing at people and every until Tiffy said that. And then Liv acted like she was as pissed
Why would
off.
Tiffany Stratton be interested in Dirty Dom?
I don't
Like,
know, but yeah, I think it was just in to incense her, and she did. But it was funny either way. But yeah, basically the entire show was just a big build up. So, I like that. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton versus Imperium was pretty good. The go home math had Cody Rhodes laid out, so he won at Crown Jewel. So that kind of made sense. Um,
Yeah, that's usually the logic, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
It's like, oh,
We had
whoever gets laid out is the one that takes
the
the win at the end.
yeah. So then we had like a four. Another match I really liked. There was a four-way with Bianca Belair, Piper Niven, Io Sky, and Lash Legend, which is half of all of the tag teams that were going to be in the Crown Jewel women's tag team title match. Spoiler: no titles changed hands at Crown Jewel. So Bianca and Jade are
Jade.
still the champions. Yeah. So Bianca and Jade are still champions, and this match was really good, man. This Bianca Piper Io Lash Legend. It was a good match. It was kind of short though. I felt maybe 10 minutes. I didn't feel like it was very long. It
See, I
did.
don't like that. Like when you have that many people in the same match, give it some time.
Yeah. Plus
Like
all the business going on outside.
otherwise it seems like it's just cheating out of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And the wrestlers for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I liked, we had a tag match with Street Profits and Pretty Deadly, and it was good, man. So Lin Manuel Miranda was in the front row, and apparently,
Yeah.
and they did a bit where Pretty Deadly, when they came out, they gave him like a flyer for their musical and a CD copy of their musical. And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, this is great." Like all getting along with himself. And as soon as they walked away, he looks at the camera. He's like, no, no, just.
That's great. That's
It was
great.
kind of funny.
I'm a big fan of that guy.
He
I think he's
dressed as
great.
Dirty Dom Mysterio for Halloween. And if you haven't seen that,
Oh, that's
check that out.
fantastic.
It was
Oh, I will have to check that out. That's
it was pretty
fantastic.
good. Like he went to an event, a WWE. I guess he went to the WWE event that was that night, and he was dressed as Dom Mysterio, and he met Dom Mysterio, and that it was pretty cool. Like, because him and like Dom and Liv were just walking by, and she turns, and she, the hell, what the? And
I
she points him
remember
out.
hearing. I remember he was in England at one point, and he just randomly decided to go to an NXT UK show, like because he was in town. Like, dude's a big wrestling fan. Like, he's. I mean, between him and his connection with The Rock, like, I mean, that's a partnership that really should be mined for more than they are.
I
Honestly,
have been known to leave open spots in my vacation itineraries because I have inklings there might be an indie show in the area on that open spot, and then I'm like, I always tell my wife, like, "Hey, we got nothing better to do. Let's just go to this. Let's go to this indie show." I always tell her, I was like, "We'll buy tickets, and if we get in there and it's a trash bag wrestler show, and you don't want to stick around for the mud show, that's fine. We can go." But like we like, I mean, if I go into a place and it's just a CD venue, I'm like, maybe I don't want to stick around here.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, there are some, but some places, like a lot of the Colorado promotions, really clean venues, freaking awesome.
Hmm.
So then we had a okay. This kind of bothered me, okay, because anybody who's been paying attention to these knows that they just did a round of releases in WWE, and they released Baron Corbin, and they released Indy Hartwell, and they released somebody else. I can't remember
Tegan
who else. Yeah,
Knox.
Tegan Knox. Okay, so they released those three. Indy Hartwell was in a tag match on SmackDown with Candice
Yeah,
LeRae on Friday.
I heard about
Like,
that.
I'm not happy with it, but I did enjoy the tag match, so I'm not like
But it was
I can't really give
bittersweet
it a.
because of stuff
Yeah,
that, yeah,
I'm not
you
going
know,
to give the tag match a down. I am going to give them releasing people a down because you're making billions of dollars. Stop that.
yeah.
No.
I mean, let's be real. They probably did all they could with Baron Corbin. I mean, what do you get? My friend George thinks that maybe he'll wind up on the Food Network because he's a pretty well known foodie. I think that would make sense. Ultimately,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I mean, if it's one thing that they don't have in their litany of celebrity foodies and chefs on that network, it's a giant ex football player and pro wrestler. They certainly don't have
True.
that. And from what I understand, he's Corbin's actually pretty good in the kitchen. So
I've
like,
heard that a couple of times
yeah,
from different
like he,
places.
yeah, like it's something that keeps popping up that I keep hearing. I'm like, oh, well, good for him. Like, I mean, I appreciate food, but maybe not to that degree. But like, I
Yeah.
will definitely, I might watch that show on occasion simply out of curiosity. As far as
Right.
the other two are concerned, man, Indy was so funny. She didn't really have a chance to really show what she could do. I liked Indy Hartwell, but I mean, what are you going to do? Tegan Knox, I kind of get because like I don't want to make this sound disrespectful because it's nobody's fault that their bodies betray them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
she did get injured a lot, and honestly, I know that she was super highly touted during the Mae Young Classic or whatever, but honestly, I just thought she was okay. I didn't think that she was worth the hype they were giving her in terms of, oh my god, she didn't seem like the second coming of Charlotte Flair or somebody. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I mean, she was absolutely fine. She's great. She's good in the ring, but like, I didn't see. I guess I didn't see the same thing that she was being touted as the potential that they were touting of her. I just never saw it.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean that
I'm
one
not
doesn't really
exposed to her
bother me
enough.
as much. Like the Indy Hartwell one bothers me because she's talented from a character standpoint, especially, and
Mm-hmm.
they really could have done a lot more with her. They have this weird thing about releasing their funny Australian women that bugs the crap out of me. They got rid of the Iconics when they could have really, really mined that for a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Those two women are hysterically funny. I loved those women. I would do the Iconics pose all over the place to the point where my wife really hated when I started doing it. But uh, but yeah, and then they split them up and let them go. Like, do you have something
Mm-hmm.
against funny Australian women? Hmm? WWE? Huh?
I
Ah!
don't know. But yeah,
Let them do
so
their thing. Let them be funny. Let them be talented. Let them live up to their potential. I'm okay with them letting Tegan Knox go. I'm okay with Barrett and Corbin. I mean, ultimately, I'm kind of okay with it all since I don't watch WWE anyway. In my opinion on this doesn't really matter. But like, if the one I do kind of feel in my heart is as a little hurting a little bit as Indy Hartwell because I really felt like I didn't hear anything from her of being used since she got the call up to the main roster. She won the NXT title, then she got called up to Raw, and then she got injured, and then they didn't do anything else with her after she came back from injury, like
no,
at all. And then they let her go. Like, what are we even doing?
right. But yeah, I mean, overall the shows were good. So the bloodline, like, okay, so I was talking about earlier, Jimmy and Jay got back together on Raw. They had their little talk on SmackDown in the ring. Jimmy did the whole, like, we're not going to be your lackeys. We're not. I'm not your henchman or any of that anymore. And then Jay said he wanted the three of them to be equals in the bloodline, and he's not his henchman anymore. And Roman Reigns took the mic and just said "yeet,"
Okay,
and the
I
crowd reaction
suppose
to
that's an
that was
affirmative.
so a crowd reaction to that was so heavy that the Usos then like Jimmy just went to the ropes like on their hard cam sign and put his one up. And then Jay kind of fiddled around a little bit, and then he went over on his side and he, did the thing. And then Roman kind of looked at them both and like slowly walked up to the middle and he put his up, and the crowd reaction was fucking insane, man. It was just, this is notable and likable because of the way the crowd reacted to this.
Yeah,
I mean, from the moment Jay came down with his, like his music shut off and they continued singing it for like a stanza
nice,
while Roman's just standing in
very
the
cool.
ring looking around it like, oh, so this is how it is, like,
Yeah,
oh, like maybe here's your moment of clarity as to who Jey Uso is now.
yeah,
And then but it just
which lends credibility to the insistence that they not be seen as lackeys,
yeah.
because this is how they're being perceived by the crowd now. You can't
Mhm.
ignore this.
Right.
This is how they see us. This is how we are.
Hmm.
My question, I guess, would be like, what is a tribal chief if everybody's an equal?
I don't know. He kind of said that he like you're my cousin, not my tribal chief. So I
So
guess
what's
that's
so what's the
so
point of this whole
the
thing?
play of this. The play of this is that they have a match with the Bloodline at Crown Jewel, and from what I can see in the results that I've read, the new Bloodline won the match.
Yeah,
And then I guess Jay was going to kick Solo and he kicked Roman. So there's going to be like some distrust stuff going on as they kind of come back together. I don't know how they're going to play it with like him being the tribal chief, but not being a chief of these guys. Like these guys are equals. But then also, I mean, Jay was like, I want to go after them because they're fucking up the family. Like, and I
yeah.
guess that because his whole point, like a big kind of thread of his interactions with bloodline people has been like Tama and Tonga are dangerous people, and Jacob Fatu is a dangerous person. They're messed up, dangerous people, and they're bad for the family. And Solo is not with that. So that's kind of what it is like now at this point. So at least I think that's where that with a little bit more clarity and some more push, that's where it's going to go. Is like the reason we are together is because we're family, and these guys are screwing our family up because they're dangerous people. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, they can pretty much go wherever they want now since they've got the tag belts off of the Tongas, and I'm still not like a big fan of the whole bloodline thing right now, but the segments themselves are good. I,
I think it's
I
tough.
kind of
I
don't
mean,
want to wait another year to figure out what's happening here and where it's
yeah,
going. You
long
know?
term storytelling falls apart if you're taking too long to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
for
then I know we're
me,
gonna get Roman and Cody again. Like Roman said as much.
yeah.
So like, let's get to it, I guess.
Well,
But they're
it's
gonna
still
say that for
November.
WrestleMania, probably.
They still have Survivor Series. That might be the blow off, or whatever they do in December might be the blow off, so that Roman can win the Rumble.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have Roman win the Rumble. I would just have him compete and have whoever wins the Rumble challenge Gunther, because that could. He's Roman Reigns. His character is such that he's at that John Cena level, that Hulk Hogan level, that Steve Austin level, where he can just demand a match and get it. He doesn't need to go
Mm-hmm.
through the rigmarole of winning the Royal Rumble. Have
Yeah.
that push go to somebody else. Have that accolade go to someone else, which leads into the second point. He doesn't need another freaking accolade.
That's true. That's true.
Stop piling them on the same guys. There are so many talented people. So many talented people. Like, do you like I'm not saying that everybody should have the same, that everybody deserves a participation badge world championship. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there are people who could benefit from it, and there are people who it would just be adding to their resume without actually adding to their resume. Roman Reigns
Yeah.
doesn't need another Royal Rumble win. He
No.
doesn't. He's set. He's made. He is the golden child. He does not
Mm-hmm.
need it. Give it to somebody who could use it so that you can create more stars. The Attitude Era worked as well as it did in part because for the first time ever, there wasn't just one top guy. There was one and
Mm-hmm.
one A. Whenever whenever Stone Cold was out, you could put the Rock right in there and it would still work. Like you need to
Mm-hmm.
be constantly making new guys. You need to be. This is a very physical, demanding business. People get injured at a moment's notice. You have to have people slotting in there. How do you do that? You build people up. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
when you don't do that, you get CM Punk versus Ryback and Hell in a Cell on 2 weeks' notice. That's what you get.
Oh yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what you want? That's not what I want. That's
No,
not what the fans want. Give them people. If you have the more stars you can make, the more people that you can get people to invest in, the more tools you have at your disposal in case something goes wrong.
yeah.
I know that it's always been a star led business and there's always been, the one guy or whatever. It's like, well, who's the next one?
Mm-hmm. Gotta
Who's
get
the
quick
next
on
guy?
making them next ones, man.
You
Because people are retiring earlier and earlier because they don't want to be old and beat up.
Yeah. And
So
and more than ever before, wrestling is acting as a gateway into acting and politics and other
other stuff.
safer, more lucrative avenues
Hmm.
of revenue for your household.
Yeah,
So continue to make guys, and it seems like they're
yeah,
doing that for a lot of guys. I'm not saying they're not doing that, but you can't let up. You need to be in that mode constantly.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna wind up again Ryback and CM Punk. It sucked. It sucked a big
Yeah.
one.
But
So
yeah, other than that, really WWE is good all week this week. I'm not really surprised by either results I read for Crown Jewel. The belt's still ugly. That's really all I'm gonna say about it. But yeah, other than
those
that,
Saudi shows
SmackDown
are
and Raw.
generally those Saudi shows are generally predictable anyway. You don't usually
Yeah,
miss anything
no.
when
So,
you skip
but yeah,
those.
Raw and SmackDown were really freaking good this week, man. I enjoyed them both, and SmackDown was good. So, we'll see where it goes from here, and hopefully things stay good. But that leads us to a hot tag.
All right, for your hot tag this week is Collision from November 2nd, 2024. Show opens up with Private Party having a celebration in the ring. I loved how this was set up because you've got it's all themed after Private Party. So you've got all the babyface tag teams in the ring celebrating with them, and all the face and all the heel tag teams on the ramp behind the velvet rope, not being let into the party because they're heels. I thought that was really great way to do it. But it basically, I mean, it was what you pretty much expect them to say. It's kind of, it's a new era, blah blah blah. But what was really getting my attention was two things. Number one, they seemed pretty intent on eventually having a match with FTR, which I am all about. FTR, in my mind, is the greatest tag team of all time. Don't at me. Uh, it's I mean, everybody they get in the ring with winds up better. It just do. Like they are the measuring stick. Uh, and so like I'm excited for that. The second part was that it led into a newly refocused vision of the tag team scene in AEW because they planned out for each successive show, the next three shows leading into Full Gear, Dynamite, Collision, and then Dynamite, all have a tag team match, a different tag team match. And the winner of those matches are going to go on to face Private Party in a four-way match at with the belts on the line at Full Gear. So the first one, I think I'm getting this order right, but the Outrunners versus Top Flight, House of Black versus FTR, and then La Facción Ingobernable versus the Acclaimed. So, honestly, I mean, I have my guesses as to who's going to win, but I could see a couple of those matches going either way. I see FTR winning for sure, but and I see probably the Outrunners winning too. But the Acclaim versus LFI is kind of a pick 'em. I imagine that it'll probably be LFI because they're currently feuding with FTR a little bit. But
Mhm.
I mean, I could see it going to the Acclaims. I could see it going. Honestly, no matter what the permutation of the actual winners is, that's a good match. That four-way match is a good match. So I'm happy with that. I loved that they set it out the next week and a half programming in this division is all set ahead of time. It shows that there's a plan. It shows that there's uh, there's going to be a renewed and continued focus on the tag team division, where it was
Mm-hmm.
at the time it was just the Young Bucks. They were just there, and it was them, and there was no focus on the belts. It was pretty much everybody else, and it was like haphazard thrown together stuff. I know that that was probably due to them wanting to do bigger things with their gimmick with the elite as EVPs and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
something I didn't talk about in Dynamite was a segment that right after they lost the belts, the Young Bucks hightailed it. They didn't want to deal with the BCC. Then they turned tail and ran and left
Yep.
poor Brandon Cutler to get the crap
The
kicked out of him.
shit kicked out of him. Oh
Poor
God,
Brandon.
poor
Oh,
Brandon, man. Those
poor
hamburgers
Brandon.
are so gross.
I want to play D&D with that guy. Like I really I would love to be Brandon Cutler's friend. Brandon Cutler, if you're the guy at AEW who's listening to this, hey, get at me. Hit me up in my DMs. We'll make something work online. I really want to play D&D with you for reals. Um but yeah, so it looks like, the Young Bucks, they it looks like they pretty much moved on. Like I don't think that's a bad thing, because how can you have the evil bosses be taken seriously when you have Moxley and crew running around? Like,
Yeah.
like they are clearly being positioned as the more dangerous group. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like it makes sense. And you know what? Give the Bucks some time. Like, Kenny's not there anymore anyway. Like, I feel like this was all set up to kind of eventually have those guys feud again. But like, Kenny is showing up at a New Japan show tonight as we record this on Sunday, which is technically Saturday, or technically Monday in Japan already.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's just an appearance. He's not wrestling. He's got diverticulitis, man. Like, that is life threatening. So, like, I felt like they probably waited as long as they could, and then this BCC angle came around and got hot, and it just didn't make sense anymore for the Bucks to be around as evil, because they didn't have a foil. Their foil was a group of battered dudes. So, like, yeah, you know what? Give them some time off. Go be with your families. Your wife, your kids miss you. Go. I mean, the Continental Classic is right around the corner. Okada can still be in that. That's fine. Jack Perry is feuding. He's still got the TNT title. He'll hold that. Those two will hold down the fort with the name of the Elite. That's fine. The Bucks don't need to be there, because they were honestly just treading water and holding. I think they were probably holding the belts until Kenny could come back with Coda, and they were probably going to drop it originally to the Golden Lovers, which
Mm-hmm.
I would have been fine with, for the record. I would have been totally okay with that. But I mean, they just waited too long, because
Mm-hmm.
Kenny needs to be able to come back. If he's going to come back, he needs to be 100%. That's not
Mm-hmm.
something that you want to take chances with, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But the storylines around the Elite have really fumbled, really, because the original plans fell through due to nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault that somebody got sick.
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody's fault. So I think they were just treading water, figuring out what to do with them. The BCC are huge bad guys now. They had a chance to make a new team as a top act in Private Party. They did that. Give them a vacation.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be healthy. And when they come back, they'll have a whole new slate of teams ready to face them and be seen as credible challengers.
Mm-hmm.
So and that will only up the drawing power of them, because if you never really thought the Young Bucks were going to lose to anybody. If there's no danger there, you can't really buy in as much. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I think it was the best decision they can make, given what they had. And from the ashes of that, we're getting a renewed and revamped and refocused tag team division, which makes this Smark Foundation member very, very happy. Uh, the first actual match on the show was the Day of the Dead match. It was basically just a no DQ match, like with Day of the Dead trappings. Now, I'm not Mexican at all, but I love, as an outside observer, I love that aesthetic.
Mhm.
I'm very much, I'm fascinated with Mesoamerican history. I love that whole, I think it's just fascinating culture. So this hit some buttons for me just based on the looks of it alone. I loved the little bit where Thunder Rosa, who had a fantastic entrance, by the way, amazing entrance, but it was capped off by, there was an ofrenda at ringside, and she had a framed picture of Harley Cameron, and she put her on the ofrenda as, I mean, if you know, I mean, but for our
Mhm.
listeners at home, the ofrenda is basically like kind of like a shrine. You put the pictures of your dead relatives there, and you make offerings to them on the Day of the Dead to remember them and carry on their legacy. Harley Cameron was being essentially put up there as a dead relative, so that that was, to me, that was funny, but also very powerful state as a statement, and I loved
Mhm.
that. Fantastic. Set the tone for the way Thunder Rosa was going to wrestle this match. Now, I will say that, uh, uh, Harley Cameron is still, learning in the ring, but let me tell you what, like, she's got such a ceiling. When she hits, when, I mean, once she eventually hits her work rate peak, she is going to be a fantastic professional wrestler because she already has the character down. Stuff. She has so much of the character work down that it often, her greenness in the ring is often overshadowed in a good way by all the little character bits that she does in the in between moments. So it doesn't, whereas, the smarkiest of smarks, and the discerning wrestling snob may be, upper butt for, oh, you botched this, or oh, this looked awful. It doesn't matter because the other intangibles she has in spades. Like, I love Harley Cameron, and I thought this was a really good match. Probably not as good as some of the other no DQ women's matches we've seen from AEW. I wouldn't. It All of them were great. All of them have been great. This was probably towards the bottom end of it if we're being realistic, but it was still good. And the finish came when Harley Cameron was in the corner. She had a trash can on her head, and Thunder Rosa did the thing that she's done a couple of other times in other matches like this, where she sets the table up where it's slanted, and she uses it as a ramp to run up and hit the corner shotgun drop kick on
Yeah.
Harley Cameron. It looks fantastic. Huge fan of both of these ladies. Did a terrific job. Nothing but ups for this match and for those ladies in general. Um, as good as that match was, holy cow! Commander versus Kyle Fletcher was incredible. If you make time to see one AEW match from this week, make it this one. This was match of the week, and I wouldn't say it wasn't close, but man, is this really good. Like, Kyle Fletcher comes out, his head is shaved. This is his first match since the thing with Osprey, turning on
Mhm.
Osprey. He comes out, he has tearaway pants. So he's a trunks guy now. He's not a tights guy anymore. He's a trunks guy. He looked a lot like a young Randy Orton, honestly,
Mhm.
from a aesthetic perspective. And he really showed his diversification in his presentation because this was unlike any other Kyle Fletcher match you've seen. Kyle Fletcher, has always been great since we've seen him in AEW coming over from New Japan, but he's always kind of been the same guy.
Mhm.
The style that he wrestles, very AEW, very indie-rific, if you want to call it, high pay, or fast-paced, high spots, that kind of stuff. This was much different. He starts out the match as your methodical bully. Like, he kicks Commander in the face after shoving, he threw his tearaway pants in his face to distract him, and then kicked him in the face, and it just knocked Commander from the loop. And from there, he just continued to just bully, a lot like Shelton Benjamin has done since his AEW
Oh,
debut,
okay.
honestly. So like he's really just and Commander would come back and do some hope spot stuff. Like there was he did the thing where he grabbed the hand and then he walked the ropes and Kyle Fletcher took advantage of him, taking a little too long to jump from the top to the middle to the top to the middle to the top. And he just throws him all the way to the outside. Like just it was a different when you take on this kind of new character direction, you want your in-ring style to reflect it as well. And Fletcher understood the assignment perfectly. And I don't know whether that's just innate or whether that's because he's, with Don Callis, who is a legitimately smart guy.
Mhm.
As annoying as he can sometimes be on the mic as a character, he's a legitimately smart guy. I don't know, what the impetus for this was for him to commit to this, but I'm glad he did because it showed that he's far more adaptable than probably a lot of people give him credit for. If he's not like a, if he's not consistently in the main event picture within 2 years for them, I would be very surprised.
Mhm.
He's gonna be a guy for them. Probably not the guy, but he's gonna be a guy for
Yeah.
them. Lots of good spots in there. And Commander too. Like I don't want to discount Commander. Commander lately has been killing it every time that he's had a spot.
Mhm.
Every time that he's had TV time, he's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go out and maximize my minutes with this guy," and he does it every single time. Like he hit a springboard Canadian destroyer at one point.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was nice.
he had a moonsault that was countered into what they're calling the Aussie bomb, which is just I guess a sit down last ride. But
Mhm.
the one that really was super super impressive, he got on Fletcher's shoulders and then reverse Rana or tried to reverse Rana him, but they were too close to the ropes, so they went all the way over, and Fletcher still landed on his feet with Commander on his shoulders, and then they did the reverse Rana on the outside.
Oh wow.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely stellar. Like I cannot talk up this match enough. If you haven't seen it, guys, you need to see it. It's wonderful. Just chef's kiss. Match ended with Fletcher hitting the brainbuster. I don't know where he met El Generico. They seem to be of different generations, but it seems that El Generico has passed his finisher on to Kyle Fletcher, or maybe Fletcher stole it because he's a bad guy and that's what they do.
Yeah.
But afterwards, he continues being up Commander. But then Mark Davis comes out, and that's going to lead to a match. Fletcher also to promote the tag team match, the tag team division a little bit more. They get on the mic later on in the show, and Fletcher says he and Takeshita are like, that tag team scene is looking pretty good right now. Maybe we should get in that mix too. So he challenged Mark Davis, or not challenged Mark Davis. He challenged Ricochet and a partner of his choosing. He said he didn't care. So you have to assume it's going to be either Mark Davis or Will Ospreay, which is
Mhm.
cool that there are options. Usually, when the mystery partner is, it's some like one obvious person, but this could be two obvious people. So there's
Mhm.
still like a little bit of mystery there, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, everything about this was stellar, terrific. Um, Now, okay, before I go into the bad, I'm gonna no, you know what? No, we're gonna finish on the positive note. I'll go to the main event first, even though it's out of chronological order. The bad, or not the bad, but the part that could have used a little bit more seasoning, I guess, was the women's world title match. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think that anything that I could say about this match would surprise anybody, given what I've said about Mariah May and Anna Jay in the last several weeks. So I won't harp on it too much. The best part about it was the finish because it was Anna Jay got caught in a. I think if it's not the same roll up, but it's a similar one that she beat Mariah May with 2 weeks ago. So I
Mhm.
like the poetic, the symmetry there. Other than that, though, it was just okay. It
Yeah.
wasn't bad. It was not bad. It was just okay. And just okay. I'm sorry. A main event for the women's world title shouldn't be just okay.
Mm-mm.
I don't care if it's on free TV. It should be of a higher standard. And like, I know that Anna Jay is trying her best, and I know that Mariah May is deliberately trying. It's very clear to me that she's deliberately trying to change her style since beating Toni Storm to be a more character driven instead of action driven performer.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense. I get that. You want the crowd to boo an incredibly beautiful woman when the longer Toni Storm is not there, the more people forget about her and the more they'll focus on, oh my gosh, this woman is gorgeous and I want her to do nasty things to me. Like it's so in order to do that, you gotta draw heat where you can. And to do that is to, one way to do that is to go the Cactus Jack ECW route and just kind of be a little boring.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I get that's what she's doing. She's not boring. She's not toned it down so much that she's putting a headlock on for 5 minutes, but it's not as quick paced as it used to be with her leading up to her title win. And you know, unfortunately, I'm not really digging it. Like I get what they're going for, and I'm not supposed to like it, so I guess it's successful. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean I'm having as good a time as I want to have with it.
Yeah.
But in any case, like Anna, I mean, this has probably been the best that Anna's looked since her Stardom uh, sojourn. But that doesn't. She's still Anna Jay. Like it's. I feel like she really could have. It would have been better served by staying in Stardom for longer and learning more. Because if anybody's going to teach you how to be a better wrestler, man, Joshi wrestlers are top flight wrestlers. They really are. Like, there's a tradition, long tradition, going back to the mid 80s of Joshi
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers kind of being the best overall group of wrestlers on the planet. Like, they don't get talked about except in the hardcore circles. They don't get the flowers that they deserve. But,
Mm-hmm.
people like, Manami Toyota and
Bull
Kudo and
Nakano.
like Bull Nakano. Like, you know, I mean, Bull Nakano was one of the lucky ones that she was able to get on WWF TV for a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
like, she was of a generation where most of those women were so hugely influential, and most people don't even know it. The
Mm-hmm.
Vertebraker was the Kadome Valentine. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was like Shane Helms didn't. He may get credit for it, but he didn't create it. He brought it to an American audience, but he didn't create it. And
Yeah.
he will be the first one to tell you that. I'm not casting shade on Shane Helms
Oh
at
no, no,
all.
he'll tell you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. he was this he was the sensation of innovation for other things, but not for that particular thing. Um, but like, I feel like Anna Jane needs a longer tour over there. I
Yeah.
think she would benefit from it, and AEW in the long run would benefit from it as well. But back to the good, ending on the good. Shane Taylor versus Roderick Strong. Holy cow! Like Shane Taylor is one of those dudes. It makes me question our decision a couple of weeks ago to make Powerhouse Hobbs our Bad News Brown because
Mm,
Shane Taylor's kind of him. Like he's a
a little bit.
bad dude. He's a bad dude. And Roddy bumped and sold like him, made him look like an absolute monster. He would throw like four jabs at him, and he would get leveled with one punch.
Mm,
One like from Shane Taylor. Like every time Shane Taylor's out there, he tries to make the most of what he's given, and he is instantly credible. Like I believe this guy could kick the crap out of nearly anybody on the planet. He has that attitude. He has a size I think he has a legitimate boxing background, if I'm not mistaken. So like his strikes look real good. Um, this was fantastic. To the point where I thought that maybe they weren't going to give Roddy the win here. Like it was that convincing to me. I was like, ooh, wait a minute. Like Roddy is not. And this was, and I thought that was exceptionally nice because, everybody knew Adam Cole was going to win his first match with Buddy Matthews. And that match was really good in comparison to the matchup of Adam Cole versus Buddy Matthews. Even as underrated as Matthews is, Shane Taylor flies so far under the radar for most people that Roddy versus Shane Taylor, you could almost say, oh, Roddy's going over easy. And they made you believe in this match that no, Shane Taylor could whoop him. Like he could take this match. And that's the magic, right? That's the secret sauce, right? Make you
Yeah.
believe. The only complaint I have is with the finish there. I think it might have been improvised because the referee goes down for 1 and 2, and then he kind of stops before he gets to 3. But then the bell rings. I
Mm.
think that the high knee that Roddy hit, actually might have caught him flush and knocked him out for a minute. And so they
Mm.
had to improvise the finish on the fly. I still believe Roddy was probably going over, but like I
Yeah.
don't think that was the finish originally because
No, I
like
didn't seem so.
yeah, but either way, like Roddy does have a tendency to get kind of flush sometimes. But so that I and those strikes that he throws are no joke either. Um, but yeah, everything else about this match, I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was it. I really hope they do something with Shane. Like he apparently in Ring of Honor, he must have found some more guys to put in his group because the Infantry came out with them, and I didn't even know they were with Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yeah.
They explained it, but like I didn't know that, so I'm hoping that maybe does something for him because that guy is they made him look amazing. Like there's potential to be mined from Shane Taylor, and I think that they really need to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys that has authenticity too. Like you believe everything that he does. You believe that everything that he says in the mold of an Eddie Kingston or somebody like that. I don't think authenticity should go to waste because it's such a rare commodity in wrestling. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
let it go to waste. If you have it, you can put that guy in any spot and you know immediately the guy he's facing is in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that doubt comes in. That's where that again, like I said, that's where the magic is, and the buying into the suspension of disbelief. If you got somebody who's believable, they'll help you suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Uh,
was Collision. If I like I said, if great week of TV for AEW as well. I'm glad to see both promotions had just stellar weeks. That's
yeah.
fantastic. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually there's something that's like really, really off about one or the other. But like
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm happy to say that we can report that apparently both companies decided to bring their A game this week.
Yeah. They really did. It was crazy. I fans are spoiled for choice right now. It's a good week.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, that's our match for the week. So it's time to call in the ring like the best to you. So Adam, you want to explain this call in the ring for the week?
All right. So for our new listeners, our Call in the Ring segment is our final freeform segment that's different every week. We've done a bunch of different stuff since we started this podcast. This week, I thought that we would do something kind of cool. Um, the PWI 500 came out not that long ago, not like super recently, but what, like maybe a month and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah, 3 weeks, month, something like that.
And for those of you who are unfamiliar with PWI and it's PWI 500, I don't know about you, Aaron. but I grew up with the Aftermax. Pro
Yep.
Wrestling Illustrated, Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler. My dad bought like all of them.
Hmm.
I was, and these were, they're called Aftermax because the guy who created them, Bill Apter, uh, basically kind of cornered the market on these wrestling centered magazines. And a lot of it, like the letters and stuff that people would write in, were shoots, but a lot of it was like kayfabe. A lot of times they would do interviews and they didn't actually interview anybody. They were just furthering storylines. Like
Yep.
it was, I don't know if they ever worked in concert with the WWF or WCW, but they've certainly helped them along.
Hmm.
Um, and every year since 1991, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which was the biggest of the three with the highest subscription rate, would put out a list of 500 wrestlers uh, from around the world, and they would rate them over the for the year that they had. The grading session was, I believe, July of one year to late June of the next, something like
I
that.
think so.
So it
Yep.
was it wasn't like it was a whole year, but it was from mid year to mid year. It wasn't from who had the best 2000. It was the
Yeah.
best mid 2000 to best mid 2001. So some of the ratings kind of are a little janky because of that, but it's something that they've done annually. Even to this day, when I don't think they even have a print version of their magazine anymore. I think it's all online, but they still to this day. I think they might do the PWI 500 as an issue though, so that you have
Yeah, I
something.
think so.
I think they do
Yeah.
that, but it's their biggest issue of the year. That and their year-end awards were their two biggest issues each year, and I thought it would be interesting since it's been around since 1991. Uh, if we, each number one was like the best wrestler of that grading period of that quote unquote year.
Yep.
So I thought, well, there have been enough now. If the PWI 500 is the measuring stick, the determination factor of who was the best wrestler of that year, then we can determine the best wrestler of the PWI 500 years by putting every single number one into a big tournament against each other. And so I've asked Aaron, I've created some brackets. I've asked Aaron to come up with his own uh, answers. I've come up with my own answers, and we're going to go over them and we are going to analyze them and for funsies because that's the kind of nerds we are.
I love tournaments.
Oh, huge fan of tournaments.
Huge fan.
What I decided to do in terms of setting this bracket up was there are 25 wrestlers who have topped the PWI 500 since 1991. Several of them have done it multiple times. Um, I'm going to I'm going to explain something to our audience. Uh, Chris Benoit is one of those people. I did include him in this bracket for the sole reason that it allowed me to make the bracket so that every single person who has topped the list more than once was able to get a buy into the second round. That's the only reason I did that. There were 7 people who have topped the list more than once, and doing a bracket of 25 instead of 24 allowed me to give all of them a buy, which I thought they deserved for making it more than once. That's the only reason Chris Benoit is on this. I want to definitely on the record. We do not endorse anything that Chris Benoit did in the last 3 days of his life at all. Um, and if his inclusion in this list offends you, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say to make it clear that we do not endorse him or what he did. It just made this bracket easier. If it makes you feel any better, I'll tell you right now that for the both of us, we eliminated him right off the bat, regardless of what kind of year he had that year, kind of matches he had that year or whatever, we both put his opponent over him, and
I don't even
and
really like his opponent that much, and I was like, no.
yeah, we're not going. He was there out of the sake of convenience and no other reason. So yeah, so with that out of the way, let's go on to the rest of the bracket. The first round, um, I will be going over the years that each of these participants won. We are grading these participants on the year that the kind of performer they had in the year that they won. So, for example, the first round sees Shawn Michaels, who topped 1996's year, versus Lesnar 2003. So, Shawn Michaels facing Lesnar from 2003 is a very different proposition, a very different kind of match, a very different overall judgment than Brock Lesnar from, say, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very different. So, with that, Michaels versus Lesnar. Who you got?
I got Michaels. So, and
Yeah,
let me explain. Um, 2003 Brock Lesnar versus 1996 Shawn Michaels would be a freaking bang because that's brutality Brock Lesnar from the very beginning, where he's breaking the legs off people who only got one leg, and we got Shawn Michaels still on the pills, so still working like he's on the pills, which means not giving a damn about his bumps and basically killing himself for our entertainment. But the height of his eras, this is where Mr. WrestleMania was born in 1996. This
yeah,
is this is where Shawn Michaels, the household name, the legend of the business, the Hall of Famer. This is where he was born, 1996. So
yep,
to put 2003 Brock Lesnar over him, we can go two ways. We can go kayfabe reason. This is the hottest Michaels ever is. It's not the most dominant Brock ever is. So we'll go Michaels. And then flip it over to real life reasons. 1996 Shawn Michaels absolutely would not have put over Brock Lesnar. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I mean, there's a case right there.
So yeah, I got Michaels in this one, man. How about you?
I I also had Michaels. As much as a Bret Hart guy as I am, I will never take anything away from Shawn Michaels. Especially I mean, granted, the grading period ended in like late June of 1996, but the kind of person or the kind of performer rather that Shawn Michaels was in late June 1996 was in the middle of one of, in my mind, one of the most underrated world championship reigns of all time. Now, granted, that may be biased because that's when I was what 11 at the
Mm-hmm.
time. That's when my fandom really, really started to ramp up. But uh, that being said, look at the reign that he had in 1996. He beats Bret Hart for it. He has a great match with Diesel the next month in that Good Friends Better Enemies. He faces the British Bulldog in two great matches. He has, I mean, the Vader match is, and then the 6-man tag the next month is, yeah, I mean, it's a 6-man tag, but it's pretty good. And then he faces Mankind in one of Mick Foley's best matches. In my opinion, it may not be his opinion, but it's my opinion that that's Mick Foley's best match. It's one I continue to go back to over and over again. And then he eventually loses to Sid. That span, that year, he faces a myriad of different kinds of opponents, bunch of different styles, a bunch of different looks. He proves that he can go out there and have a banger match with literally anybody on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I know people really talk about, him cementing his greatest, his GOAT status, you know, when he returns in 2002 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, this is my Shawn Michaels. this is my Shawn Michaels. This is in my opinion, the most interesting in ring Shawn Michaels, because he would do stuff constantly that you'd never seen him do before, just because he was so insecure about everything that he felt he needed to, and there was such pressure on him because he wasn't financially. It didn't seem like he was drawing as champion. I mean, he was probably doing better than Kev, but that's one of the knocks on Shawn was it was 1996. Nitro was starting to beat WWF pretty handily at that point. There was a lot of pressure on Michaels. He was getting into the pills. He was getting into the bet with Sonny. Like he was doing all this crappy crap, but that produced some fantastic wrestling on his part. Now for Brock Lesnar, it was 2003, and he was doing more then than he would later, much like Shawn Michaels at that same point in time that we just talked about. But he wasn't the beast. He wasn't the unstoppable guy. Like he was unstoppable mostly because nobody had figured him out yet, not because he'd gone and become UFC heavyweight champion and legitimized himself, and then decided to beat the Undertaker's streak, and then squash John Cena with 17 suplexes at SummerSlam. This is not that Brock Lesnar.
No,
this is proto Brock Lesnar, who is very, very good. I don't want to discount or diminish his talents even at that point in his career, because he was already fantastic. But he wasn't Shawn Michaels in 1996, was he?
No.
So I agree with you. I put Shawn Michaels in this spot right here.
All right.
Next one we got is Kazuchika Okada from 2017 versus Dean Malenko in 1997. Fun fact about this one, I remember distinctly Dean Malenko topping this list was because there was no consensus in their writers' room about who had the best year unequivocally. So they just decided to give it to whoever they thought was the best technical wrestler. And that's why Dean Malenko tops this list. That's also why I have him at the second last seed at number 24. 25 goes to Benoit, obvious reasons. But because he earned it, but he didn't really earn it. Like, I love Dean Malenko. I think he's a phenomenal talent. But like, for me, this goes pretty handily to Okada. Like, to me, it's not even really close. Like, the year Kazuchika Okada had in 2017 kind of put New Japan back on the map. Like, it was, I mean, what in 1997 did Dean Malenko really do? Like, he'd already had his U.S. title reign. He had some good stuff with Chris Jericho in 97, but like, it wasn't anything near to the level of drawing power or even the quality of matches that Okada was having with guys like Tanahashi or Kota Ibushi or Naito or anybody. Like, it just, I love Dean Malenko, but there's no way I can put him in the spot over Okada. I just can't. I can't justify it.
I mean, in my heart, I can. I can't, because that's the best technical wrestler to ever exist. Let's be fair to this man.
I mean, no. Obviously, he was a wizard.
But
he's an absolute technical wizard.
But I do understand, the difference between the two, and even the difference in how they placed on the number one spot on the PWI 500. So I would concede this one to Okada, even though I love Dean Malenko. Like,
he's great. No disrespect on my part to Dean Malenko.
Yeah, none at all.
Absolutely not. But like, if he had actually, I don't want this to come off sounding mean or disrespectful, but like, nobody, including Dean Malenko, who actually topped the list, really earned number one in 97. Nobody did.
No.
They gave it to him because they didn't know who else to give it to, so they just decided to give it to the guy who was best between the ropes, which is an honor in and of itself. You know, I mean, that's nothing to slouch at, but that doesn't mean he had the best year that year.
Right.
Whereas Okada probably did. Like, you know,
Yeah.
so I mean, to me, it's as heartbreaking a choice as it is because I do love Dean. I, there's no way I can see him going over Okada from 2017. Like the match itself would be fantastic. You
No.
know it would be, but I mean, Okada has to really reach down there because he's 6'3" and Malenko's like 5'9". You'd really have to reach down there with that Rainmaker, but he'd still take his
Mhm.
head off with
Fair
it.
enough. Yeah. So Okada in that one.
Yep. Next up is the one we've already discussed. John Moxley goes over Chris Benoit. I don't think we have to say anything else about that.
Nope.
I don't
We
think
can
it
move
deserves
on.
anything else to say. We can move on.
This
This one, this one was
is the hardest
very
one in
hard.
this
This is
freaking
one of
round. This is the hardest.
Daniel Bryan from 2014 at the height of Yeselmania versus Kurt Angle from 2001.
Man. Okay.
Fresh off of the best rookie year, just a year removed from the best rookie year ever. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow. This
Now,
one gave me fits.
I'm having fits too. And let me explain why I'm having fits. Because I actually saw both of these guys wrestle in the year they won the PWI live and in person.
Yeah.
So when Angle won the PWI, literally like a month or a few months before the PWI came out, Angle was the WWE had a rare Amarillo appearance, and Angle was like, I when I walked in the building, they had already done the dark match. Like I heard Ron Killings win a dark match while I was in line, and then came in, and I think it was I don't remember what it was, a taping for something like a Sunday Night Heat or something like that.
Mm.
But the very first match was Kurt Angle, and we have exactly one 10,000 seat arena here in Amarillo, and it was fucking full. And
Yeah.
everybody and their grandmama who was in attendance was on their feet doing the "You Suck" chant with his music.
Yep.
I actually bought a Kurt Angle, like that original red, white, and blue with the eye on the back.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
integrity,
yeah.
intelligence, and all. Yeah, like I bought that shirt at that event. So this one, and I saw Brian at the height of WrestleMania, and before that, we had met him before that, you know.
Yeah.
But I got to see them live. Like they came here right at the height of WrestleMania for a show, and I got to go to that one too. And Daniel Bryan was like the first or second match, and the place was alive for him the same way it was alive for Kurt Angle. So this is just, I mean, I know I have an answer, but I don't. I'm not comfortable with it either way. I could never bring peace or comfort to myself with my
I
answer.
know. It's almost a coin flip, really.
Yeah, yeah. So I got Daniel Bryan.
I did too. Um, I think that the main factor in my decision was that this was Kurt Angle from 2001, who had a great year, but he would get way better, which is
Yeah.
insane. At 2001, he hadn't even had the King of the Ring match with Shane McMahon yet. He hadn't had those bangers with Eddie yet. He hadn't
Mm-mm.
done any like
He had barely
like
scratched the surface.
yeah, like he
Yeah.
was obviously he was among the most talented people that will ever lace up a pair of professional wrestling boots. If
Mm-hmm.
if he had won it a couple of years later, I would probably lean towards Kurt Angle. But this was the height of Yeselmania. Daniel Bryan already had almost 20 years under his belt at that point
Yep.
and was at the height of his popularity, had an incredible year. He had such an incredible year that the fans did something absolutely incredible and changed the entire direction of WWE creative. That is something that does not happen often. As much as they like to pretend that they listen to their audience, they don't.
I'm
At
twice in
least
our lifetime.
not with Vince, not with Vince at the helm anyway.
No.
Triple H, jury's still out. They have
Yeah.
the product has been good. He has not been tested to the degree that we would need for in order to make that distinction and make that judgment call,
Yeah.
because the product has been good. It's only when the product is bad that the fans get loud enough to make their displeasure heard.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince has had that a couple of times and was usually very reticent to change course, especially once there was no competition around,
Mm-hmm.
because he knew he could coast because he was the only game in town. So for Daniel Bryan to be so good and so revered by the audience, to change WrestleMania plans after the Royal Rumble had already been established, the winner was already
Mm-hmm.
there, it was already in the books, and they still changed it to accommodate Daniel Bryan. How do you not go for that year and
Yeah.
that performer in that year over somebody, even somebody as inherently talented and inherently in the, like everybody's GOAT conversation as Kurt Angle? But it was 2001. You
Mm.
know, to me, it was not an easy decision, and that was the tipping factor, is that Kurt Angle would get so much better even, whereas Daniel Bryan, who would also get better for the record from 2014, I think he did his best work in AEW, point blank. But that year that he had was insane. It was a cultural movement. It it was one of those rare things that transcended wrestling. The Yes Chant became a thing in sports all over this country,
Mm-hmm.
completely unrelated to wrestling, because of the popularity of Daniel Bryan. To
Yeah.
me, it's not a no brainer. But to me, once you bring up that point, I feel more comfortable putting Daniel Bryan over Kurt Angle in this because of the years that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The next one I think is pretty easy.
Pretty easy for
Right?
me.
Pretty easy for me too. CM
Mm-hmm.
Punk over Hulk Hogan. Thank you.
Easily. Yep. Done.
CM Punk 2012, which was
Yep.
arguably his best year, versus Hulk Hogan in 1991 when people were already starting to turn on him. No
Mm-hmm.
thanks. I
Yeah.
mean, even Hulk Hogan in his best year in Japan would maybe rate against CM Punk in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like,
But not in this combination.
I mean, I just came off talking about the popularity. Like, Hulk Hogan was still popular in '91, but people were starting to turn on him. It was not the '80s anymore. It was not
Mm-mm.
the height of his relevance. His WrestleMania match in 1991 was against Sergeant Slaughter in a match they needed to move the venue to, because they weren't selling enough tickets to sell out the big stadium. So they had to go across the street to the small stadium and make up a BS reason about a bomb threat being called in because Sergeant Slaughter had so much heat. No, it's because they weren't selling tickets.
Right.
The
Yeah. They
mighty
weren't
Hulk
selling anything.
Hogan, not even the mighty Hulk Hogan, could sell this WrestleMania in 1991. So
No.
if we're looking even at drawing power and popularity as a factor, Hulk Hogan still loses out to CM Punk from
Easily.
2012.
Yeah. All right.
Next one is an interesting one. I feel like this one, two very different performers. Dave Batista in 2005
Mm-hmm.
versus AJ Styles from 2010. So
Mm.
Styles is still in TNA at this point. They hadn't switched to the Impact name. And then Batista is coming right off that hot year. He won the world title in 2004 and just kind of kept steamrolling for the whole year. Had some really good matches with Eddie Guerrero before he died. The Undertaker, no, not the Undertaker, was later. 2000. What was their WrestleMania match? Was that 2000?
I don't think so.
I think it was 06. It was in Detroit. It was 23.
That would have been
So
7.
seven. Oh,
2007.
seven. Okay. So yeah, it wasn't even yeah. It was still. I mean, he was still super over. It was Batista on one show and Cena on the other, and those were the anchors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he had AJ Styles in 2010. I mean, he was. They had Angle in 2010. They had. I don't think they had Christian anymore. I think he had gone over by this point. Um, he was. I think it was. Was that the year of Fortune? I think that
Maybe.
might have been Fortune. But yeah, I mean, AJ Styles is AJ Styles. See,
Yeah.
for this one, for me, it's tough because like Batista had a really good year, and AJ Styles was just kind of the best of the bunch
Mm-hmm.
in a kind of nondescript year. So for me, like, I think I would probably still go AJ Styles simply because the competition he was up against was probably thicker than
Mm-hmm.
the kind of competition that Batista was facing in 2005. Um, but honestly, that one's kind of a coin flip too, but one I care a little bit less about, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But what
Um,
say you?
I got Styles on this one, man.
Yeah,
He had TNA on his back in 2010. He might arguably be the reason that they are in business at all.
yeah,
Um,
maybe.
so
I mean,
I
if you
give,
want to talk about homegrown talent,
yeah,
there you
homegrown
go.
talent there for sure. I give it to him. His wrestling ability. I don't think it matters what year you compare him versus Batista. He's better wrestler.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Batista did have a good run, but it's we are not talking about Batista, the ring general. Okay. I mean, let's
no,
just, I don't want to be negative towards him because I do like Batista. I think he's a
yeah,
fantastic actor. And there were definitely times where I rooted for him as a
yeah.
wrestling fan. So I'm not I'm
His
not,
best work came towards the end of his in ring career, though.
yeah.
In
But
fact, in fact, if it was 2010 Batista that we were talking about, I think I would go Batista
yeah, it
because
might
that
be a
was the year
different,
that he
different
left and he
story.
had that great back and forth with Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Like the the matches themselves were nothing really to write home about, but the story was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
Yeah.
he was doing his best heel work at that point, hands down. Like,
Yeah.
but
But yeah,
yeah, this
I got
2005
Styles on this
Batista.
one too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was Bob Batista. I just don't, I mean, yeah, he had a title. Him having a title in 2005. I mean, WWE wasn't really ringing any bells in 2005. He's a big guy with a look, and that was Vince's thing, and we can chalk that up to Vince.
yeah.
So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's not that he made a wrong decision with that with
no,
him in
no,
particular. Batista was a good pick. He
yeah,
was he was a real good pickup for them.
yeah. But I
But
mean, if we want to
yeah,
talk about wrestling talent across these 2 years, I'm taking Styles.
yeah, me too. Next one we've got the most recent winner of the PWI 500, Cody Rhodes, versus 95's winner, Diesel.
Okay, I'm gonna say this really quickly before I get into what I'm gonna do here.
Or
Kevin, I love you. If you hear this, Kevin, I think you're fucking hilarious. You're one of the best Marvel villains ever as the Russian dude in the Red Russian and
Punisher.
Thomas James Punisher. I fucking love you. I listen to your podcast. I think you're great. I really do. Okay. But Cody Rhodes versus fucking Diesel, man. Like that was like
It
I
wasn't his best year.
no, it wasn't his best year, and Cody had a fucking banger year.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, if we're talking about who had a good year, who put on great matches, who had me engrossed in what he was fucking doing, I didn't just start watching WWE for this podcast. Cody's had my fucking attention.
yeah.
I didn't really watch for the bloodline stuff previous to Cody coming in and doing his thing. But as soon as it was time for Cody to finish his story, I started tuning in. So I cannot name one match that Kevin Nash had as Diesel I'm not going to add a qualifier to that. I can't name one match that Kevin Nash had as Diesel. I'm not trying to be funny. Like I remember that he was Shawn Michaels' bodyguard. I know he won the WWF title at some point. I don't know if it was this year.
Diesel won the title in December 1994 at a house show at MSG, beating Bob Backlund with one jackknife powerbomb a couple of days after, or it was in November, because it was a couple of days after Survivor Series, and
Mhm.
Brett had dropped the belt to Backlund after chicanery with Owen Hart, convincing his mom to throw in the towel for him while he was in the crossface chicken wing.
Okay.
These are formative memories for me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Uh, uh,
I'm gonna say it involves Bret Hart.
no, yeah, yeah. Diesel would then go on to wear the WWF belt for just about a year, dropping it back to Bret Hart at Survivor Series 1995, which in my mind is Diesel's best match and is notable for being the first time in WWF history that anybody took a bump through a table.
Mm.
Bret Hart got jackknifed through the announcer's table, and nobody knew what to do. And it was really funny.
Okay.
And that match is great. You should go
Now,
back and watch that match. That's definitely Kevin's best match, in my opinion.
now, okay. Now I am gonna go check that match out because, like I said, Kevin, I love you. But all that said, Cody Rhodes unseated a 2-year champion in this grading year. He finished his story in this grading year.
4 years almost, really.
He beat The Rock in a tag team match in this grading year. I believe. I think they won that match.
No, they lost that match,
but
to set up the Bloodline Rules part of the next
but
one.
still, he fought. You know, he fought The Rock. The Rock is. I'm pretty sure. As much as I hate to say it, and I'm gonna hate it, man. I'm pretty sure The Rock might win the world championship at WrestleMania this year. I'm not really into it, but I mean, like that's like the tippy top right now of active people is The Rock. Like if The Rock is involved, that's the top guy.
Yeah.
Um,
He's also his boss now.
Yeah, he's also his boss now. So, but I mean, they did, as far as I know, they did actually change WrestleMania's booking because of Cody's popularity. So I mean,
yeah, that has
I have to give this
count.
to Cody.
That has to count in the same respect as Yeselmania counts.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it like you know what, you just proved me wrong. In fact, I didn't even realize it, but you just proved me wrong about Triple H's booking. You know, that's right. You're right. But he was willing to change it. So the one time the fans pretty much demanded it, they changed it, and they changed it quickly. There was no dragging of feet. It was instant. They pivoted immediately.
Yeah. It was
the reason that they did that was because of Cody Rhodes and everybody feeling sorry for his boo-boo face. Which I don't blame anybody for, because it was bullcrap. But they booked him into a Royal Rumble. Then, they booked him into the Royal Rumble knowing that he wasn't going to go to WrestleMania with it.
Yeah.
What is that? Stupid. Absolutely trash.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I'm not being positive saying something. I believe everybody has the same exact opinion that I do.
Everybody had that same opinion. Yeah. Everybody. Except the biggest of rock marks.
Yeah, and sorry, Adam Wilborn. Bullshit.
it was garbage. No, I have the same opinion. Like, Cody Rhodes is just, Kevin Nash is an interesting person, but he only really got really good as a character in wrestling once he lost the belt to Brett. Because then he developed the edge that carried over into his WCW run as the Outsiders in the NWO, where he had, honestly, his most success.
Yeah.
His 1995 was marred by injury. It was marred by lots. The only really good matches he had that year were against Brett and Shawn, and that doesn't say much because Brett and Shawn could have a good match with a roll of toilet paper. So, And
Shawn had a great
if you want to
entertaining
get
match with Hulk
metaphorical,
Hogan. Yeah,
if you want to get metaphorical with it, they often did.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, no, I respect the heck out of Kevin Nash. I really do. But
Yeah.
95, I think it goes. This is a good time to remind our listeners that the PWI is large, at least back in the day. Not so much anymore now that the business is far more open. But back in the day, very much reinforced kayfabe.
Mm-hmm.
Kayfabe accomplishments meant a lot. He was WWF champion for a year.
For a year.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter that
That's
the
a
reign
long
sucked.
time at
It
any
doesn't
time.
matter that the reign sucked. It doesn't
Mm-mm.
matter that he had the worst SummerSlam main event possible with Mabel, King Mabel.
Oh God.
Like it
Okay,
doesn't
I
matter.
can name a diesel match. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it
Yeah, it
though.
doesn't matter. To the PWI, all that matters was the kayfabe accomplishments. So
Yeah.
that's why he got that in 1995 because he was booked to be the most dominant person
Yeah.
in wrestling.
Yeah. Booking
That's it.
really assisted that one.
Yep. All right. So the next penultimate first round match is Randy Orton from 2008 versus The Miz from 2011.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, The Miz from 2011 is an interesting case because, again, this is kayfabe accomplishments. He was United States champion that year. He was tag team champion with the Big Show that year. He was Money in the Bank holder and cashed in on Randy Orton to become WWE champion that year. I think it was all that was in the grading period.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, that's a heck of a year, but that world title reign was dog crap. Like it was awful. It was real bad. Show Mrs. Uh, theme song was dog crap. It was real bad. It just, and you know how I feel about Randy Orton. I feel he's like super overrated. Like, I can't get behind. I just can't. Like, the RKO out of nowhere is fine. It's good. It's memeable. It's in some cases it's truly memorable and exciting. And to be fair, this is about the same time I think they started bringing out the punt kick, which does look like it would cause severe cranial damage.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I've never been a Randy Orton guy. I just don't get it. Like he's like one of the most boring main eventers I can think of. So this one for me was really difficult. I think that if I was to be honest with myself, the Miz may have had more accomplishments, but the weakness of that world title reign really, really drags it down. And I'm gonna have to hold my nose and move Randy Orton forward. I
Well, good
hate
because
that I
I
have to
got
say
Orton,
that.
and I can. That makes it easy. I got
Yeah,
Orton.
yeah.
Uh,
Like I
this.
I try to be honest with myself. Like, yeah, I don't want anybody to think, oh, you're just biased. It's like, no, I can be objective.
Well, guys, I'm the biased one.
Yeah.
No, this is the birth of the legend killer, man. This is where they brought the punt kick in, and he was kicking all the legends in the head and stuff. So, this is actually one of my favorite Orton things that he ever did because it was major heat. I hated him for it. Dusty hate him for it. He kicked Dusty in the head for fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah.
so, and then I mean, it was everybody. He had Dusty Flair, pretty much anybody. There's a bunch of them.
This was before the WrestleMania that you and I went to because we went
Yes.
in '09.
Mm-hmm.
So this was leading up to that.
Yeah. But yeah, I put Orton up too on that one.
Yeah. Now, final first round match, two very, very different individuals. Rob Van Dam from 2002, who had a heck of a year that year for the record, versus Randy or no versus sorry, I looked at the upper bracket there versus Sting from 1992.
Oh man.
At the height of his surfer powers. Um, this one's tough.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say it straight
It's
up.
tough.
This is height of Surfer Sting. This is where he beats Flair for the first time and becomes the NWA WCW World Heavyweight Champion when they were
That was
still.
in I think that was in '90. I think that was earlier
Oh
that he
man,
finally did that.
I
But
thought.
Sting was this was right before he ran into Vader. Vader I think was
Uh,
93.
hmm.
So this was he was feuding with Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack.
He was feuding with a few other Rick Rude I think was in there.
That was a good one too.
Flair was in and out of the mix.
Yeah,
I
always.
think.
Yeah, he feuded with Flair like every year, at
I
least
think it
for a
was
month or two.
early '92 that he was feuding with Flair though, because by no, it couldn't have been. It must have been later '92 because '92 was the Royal Rumble where Ric Flair won it, and then he
Hmm.
was gone. He dropped the title to Brett, and then he was gone by the fall. So I think
Yeah.
Flair came back in late '92, and then I think almost immediately started feuding with Sting.
Hmm. Now, either way though, if this is Surfer Sting,
Yeah, yeah, it's Surfer Sting.
Surfer Sting wins. I'm
I
sorry.
as
I
much as
love
I love
RVD.
Rod Van Dam, I think I have to agree. Like Van Dam had a great year, but he was really in a lot of main events that year. Like
Hmm.
he was in a very prominent position. He won several intercontinental titles. He uh this that was the year I think that they merged the hardcore and European titles into the IC belts.
Hmm.
Um he did main event a pay per view with he main evented made it to the King of the Ring final against Brock. He main evented a pay per view against Triple H for the belt that he lost. He
Hmm.
was in the very first Elimination Chamber that year and crushed Triple H's trachea. Uh, but um, but he didn't win the big one, did he?
Mm-mm.
Sting,
Nah.
I think, was champion for most of 1992, and for
Yeah, I
good
think
reason.
so.
He was the top draw. He was having great matches with people.
Everybody.
Um, I as much as I love Rob Van Dam and as influential as he is,
Hmm.
I think it has to go to Sting, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
at least Sting from '92. If you're talking Sting from '95, that's a different conversation altogether. By that point, Hogan had eclipsed his spot, and Sting was doing nothing but tag stuff with Lex Luger. But
Like,
but
I mean,
Robin, I mean, it's '92 though, height of Surfer
the
Sting
year
powers.
Sting
Come on,
should have been the year Sting should have been the PWI number one. Somebody else who also did deserve the PWI number one did win, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive Abner for that shit. Uh, because it should have 98 should have been Sting's win year when he finally came down from the rafters and beat Hulk Hogan for the title.
yeah.
If it's about kayfabe, that should have been his year, and it wasn't. And
But
at
yeah,
least he
here's
made
the
it
thing
once.
that fell in the 1998 grading period though. So that was the tail end of '97, so that would have been
Yeah,
mid-summer
that would have been the
'97 to mid-number
'98
'8,
grading period,
and
which
we're coming up on who won in '98, and
yeah, we
nobody
are.
was beating him.
No, and
Nobody
that's
was beating that
unfortunate.
guy. Um,
No, no, they
but
weren't.
anyway, it seems like our entire first round was in agreement.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's see how the second
It's going to
round
get ugly
goes.
now.
We've got this is the second round is where we introduce people who have won multiple times. So for
Yes.
that, you kind of the people who got through the first round are a distinct disadvantage because their 1 year is being judged against multiple years. So
I say at this point we drop the years and we just compare careers.
I think we take the best year of the years
Ooh.
that they won.
Okay.
I think we do that because I mean, if you're looking for the best of the best, you have to compare the best to the best.
That's true. Okay.
So Shawn Michaels from 1996 versus John Cena.
What are our options?
2006,
Mm-hmm.
2007, and 2013.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Uh, oh,
Now, crucially, I want to say that I think John Cena's best year was not a year that he won the PWI 500. I think his best year was 2015 when he won the U.S. title and he went on that freaking tear and had
mhm.
great matches with literally everyone.
Everybody, Kevin Owens and all them. Yeah, like
Literally everybody.
everybody.
He
Yeah.
proved he proved his naysayers wrong that dude, yeah, that dude is a little clunky. He's not a finesse guy, but he can
No.
wrestle.
Yeah.
He can wrestle. That was what to me that one couple runs with the U.S. title that year were better than the vast majority of his world title reigns
Yeah.
because of the variety of opponents he faced and the great matches that came from them.
Yeah.
Uh, of these years, it's kind of hard to tell which years were which, honestly. I think that may just give us the answer, though. Like, I went with
Yeah.
Michaels because I can tell you what Michaels did in 96. I
Yeah.
can't tell you, with a couple of exceptions. I think in 06, John Cena had that last man standing match with Umaga, which was great.
Yeah.
Um, Highlighted that title reign. But I think most of 07 was probably, if I had to guess, was probably feuding with Orton back and forth in boring matches that nobody remembers.
Or
And
Edge.
in 13 was what, the year before CM Punk left. So
Yeah.
yeah, he was. I mean, he was. That was twice in a lifetime. That whole thing sucked. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's funny that they had him win the PWI 500 when they would later bill that year as the worst of his career. As
Right.
as if, like, come on, dude. Look at it objectively. How is it the worst? I like how they implied too that him losing to The Rock eventually led to him breaking up with Nikki Bella. Like, or not, no, not Nikki Bella, eventually divorcing his first wife.
Mm.
That's, well, like, like, geez, Louise. No, to me, it's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. It was an easy Michaels for me on that one.
Like, I know that
It
might
was
seem an
easy.
upset for somebody who won 3 times, had the number one seed after winning the list 3 times, but to me, it's Michaels, like,
Nah,
all
it's
the
easily
way.
Michaels. Yeah. 96 Michaels is a powerful force, man. That's going to be
Yeah,
we might get there, but it's going to be tough.
yeah. So he will face the winner of Kazuchika Okada from 2017 and John Moxley of 2020.
It's Okada.
It's probably Okada,
It's
right?
Okada,
Like,
man.
2020, it would not matter. It would not matter what happens for the winner of the 2020 PWI 500
Mm,
because that was the first pandemic year.
yeah.
Nobody's year was good that year.
No.
Like, you had bright spots here and there, but man, oh, I mean, he that year he had a great match, a great match with Brody Lee.
Mm,
You know, he had the feud. You know, he came into AEW. He had the feud with Jericho in 2019. Uh, and then he was still champion heading into 2020, I think.
yeah.
Oh, no. 2019, he won it off of Jericho in the fall of 2019 and carried it into, and then he would later drop it to Omega.
Mm,
But yeah, like, it was, it wasn't a good year for anybody. Even the best year anybody had in 2020 wouldn't match up to Kazuchika Okada's 2017,
no.
and it couldn't. That's not Moxley's fault. It just
No.
couldn't. It
They
was the
just couldn't.
circumstances surrounding it. That's what it was. Like, that's all there was to it.
Yeah.
So no disrespect to John Moxley, but there was no way that was going to work out. Okay. So, oof, this one hurts. Daniel Bryan in 2014
Mm-hmm.
versus Bret Hart from 1993 and 1994. Take your pick. I say 93 is a better year for him. 94 was full of kiss my foot matches and no, wait, no, that was 95, I guess,
What
wasn't
was
it?
WrestleMania 10?
WrestleMania 10 was 93. But
93.
remember, that was early in the year.
Oh yeah. Okay. Man, I'd probably say 93 still.
Yeah. No, you know what? No, I would go with 90. I amend my statement. 94. 93, he was mid card for most of the year after that because Hogan wouldn't put him over. Like he won
Mm-hmm.
King of the Ring and then feuded with Jerry Lawler. And then 94 is when, oh, am I getting it wrong? I might be getting that wrong. Let's see. WrestleMania 10 is 94. WrestleMania 9 is the chicanery with Hogan and Yokozuna. So WrestleMania 10 is where he wins it back and then feuds with Owen. Yeah, 94 is his year.
94. Yeah, for
94 is his
sure.
year.
I was about to ask, when did he wrestle Owen? Because
Yeah, he
that's one of
wrestled.
these
Oh,
years.
yeah, it was
If that's
94.
94, then
He started that feud at the Survivor Series in 93 and then it carried through.
yeah.
So, um, versus Daniel Bryan 2014, though.
I mean, okay. I'm going to say this, and I hope that it's not too off the wall. Um, Yeselmania was a movement,
Yeah,
but
no, you're right.
but bear with me for a sec. Brett versus Owen Hart was like what literally made me sit up and take notice of technical wrestling.
Mm,
That was the first time that I went, wait a minute.
their
You
opener at
mean
that
this
at WrestleMania.
this isn't
Yeah,
just punches and kicks.
yeah,
This is a mental
grappling.
chess match.
Yeah,
There's something going on here. You know, this was before I had ever had any experience in collegiate style wrestling or jujitsu or anything like that. Like even the forms of martial arts that I practiced as a kid at this time were punches and kicks mostly. I didn't do judo or anything like that either. So I never really was exposed to this. And while people like to put on rose colored glasses and talk about the great grapplers of the 70s and 80s and the 90s, like none of them wrestled like Brett and Owen wrestled. And that
yeah,
was a byproduct of their closeness. But it was the first time that I sat up and been like, man, these are two real technicians really doing their thing. Um, I like to judge stuff like this based on wrestling ability. Yeah, WrestleMania was a thing. Daniel Bryan is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But Bret Hart might be the greatest wrestler of all time. We can argue that all day,
yeah.
but he might be the like Daniel Bryan is always going to be he's one of the best wrestlers of all time. He's the best wrestler in the world right now. He's on the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. Bret Hart has an argument to be the greatest wrestler of all time. So, especially with 94 being the Owen year, I think I got hard on this one, man.
Yeah,
I got Bret Hart.
I, I, I went back and forth on this so many times. Because I didn't want to, it's very, very. I'm very open about being a huge mark for Bret Hart. I'm very open about being a huge mark for Daniel Bryan slash Bryan Danielson. Like, I truly believe that there is there are only a handful of people on this earth who are currently in the same league as Brian Danielson is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Will Ospreay is one of them. I honestly think Pac is one of them. That just may be me and my own particular
No, he's fantastic.
sensibilities. But I think Seth Rollins is in that conversation. But this was nearly a coin flip. The thing that swayed me was, as much as I talked about WrestleMania being a huge deal and it carrying his previous matchup against Kurt Angle here. Fact of the matter is, 2014, Daniel Bryan got injured very, very quickly after he won the belt and was sidelined for the rest of the year. He missed about 7 months of 2014. Now, granted, not all of that was in the grading period here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking about who the wrestler he was in that year, he didn't wrestle for most of that year. Bret Hart had one of his career years in 1994 and was there for the whole time. Now the
Yep.
numbers, the revenue may not back that up. The profits may not back that up. That he was bigger than Daniel Bryan, and that's a valid issue. But to me, as big as WrestleMania was, and as much as that was enough to overcome the sophomore year of Kurt Angle,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's enough to beat out Bret Hart in 1994, who by that point had been what, a 15-year veteran and was doing
Mm-hmm.
some of the best work of his career.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be the very best work of his career, but some of the best work of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I probably have to give the slightest of nods to Bret Hart here because of that one thing, is that if Daniel Bryan had been healthy the whole year, it didn't matter how badly he was booked based on WrestleMania and probably the body of work that he would have had the rest of the year. He would have taken it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But he wrestled 5 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Bret Hart wrestled 12 months out of the year. So there it is.
Yeah.
So Bret Hart advances for both of us.
There we go.
Next one up is CM Punk from 2012 versus Roman Reigns. He topped the list both in 2016 and 2022. I would imagine 2022 is probably seen as the better year for most
For sure.
people. 16
So
is still when he was being
here's
shoved down our throats unnecessarily.
yeah, okay. So here's my comparison. 2016 is the first time he ever went berserk with a chair, and people were like, "Oh, there's a different side of Roman that could possibly be awesome."
Yeah.
And it took them until about 2022 to capitalize on that. So 6 years later, um, and still, and still, um, here's how I would put it. In 2012 with CM Punk, he had everyone's attention. In 2022 with Roman Reigns, not only was there a split caused with AEW, so he just didn't have some people's attention, but he didn't even have everybody's attention in WWE.
He also has to split that attention with, ironically enough, the returning CM
CM
Punk.
Punk. Yeah, I can tell you 100% that I was not watching wrestling for a while there,
Yeah.
and CM Punk is what brought me back to watching wrestling. And so 2022 Roman Reigns certainly did not have my attention. But
To me,
2012 CM Punk sure
yeah,
did.
yeah, CM Punk 2012 was not booked as he should have been for the first half of the year because for some reason they decided CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan should sub main event underneath John Cena versus John Laurinaitis in their infinite wisdom.
Yeah, that was stupid.
But he was the first half of the year he was doing the best in ring work of anybody as world champion, and in the second half of that year he was doing the best character work as anybody as champion. Roman Reigns 2022 I was not watching WWF at the point, but I would still hang on to things, go to the sheets and see things. And
Mm.
it seems to me that most of the stuff that everybody likes about the bloodline storyline happened after 2022
Mm.
or at the very tail end of 2022 leading into 2023, essentially when they added Sami Zayn to the mix.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with Roman Reigns and everything to do with Sami Zayn.
Yep.
So, I mean, I may be a little ignorant here because, I didn't actually witness Roman Reigns, okay, during this time period of 2022. But
Mm.
I can't imagine that anything he did in the majority of that year, based on what other people have said, was any more compelling than anything that CM Punk did in his 2012 reign.
No.
So I'm going with CM Punk as well.
All right.
This one is probably the easiest of these matchups to call right here because
Yeah.
it's AJ Styles from 2010 versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from 1998 or 1999. Take your pick. Let's
Doesn't
hammer out.
matter.
Let's hammer. I know for this match it doesn't matter, but for subsequent matches it may. So we need to hammer out
98.
98. We'll go
Yeah.
with 98.
It was
But
so
yeah,
good in 98. He beat out Sting, beating Hogan for the title.
yeah, yeah,
It's nine. Yeah, it's definitely 98.
yeah.
Um,
And he beat
yeah.
out Bill Goldberg's streak for that matter.
Yes, for
I
that
think
matter.
Goldberg
Yeah.
was number 2 that year, and for good reason because of kayfabe.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So yeah, but this
as
is
I
easy.
love AJ Styles, but this is
I do
easy.
too.
Nobody had a better 1998 than Steve Austin. Like, sorry,
Nobody's
not
had a year
sorry.
that good. Most people. I
No,
mean,
gosh, no. Sorry, not
yeah.
sorry.
No, not even close to sorry.
Moving
Yeah.
on.
Moving on.
So Cody Rhodes from this year
Mm-hmm.
versus Triple H from either 2000 or 2009. I would argue for 2000. I think Triple H had a fantastic 2000.
Yeah, I'd probably argue for 2000 also.
So let's settle on Triple H from 2000. Um, I mean, like I said, this is in the period of WWE that I haven't personally witnessed myself, and I've been kind of living vicariously through other people.
Mm-hmm.
So take that how you will. But Triple H's best year was 2000, and it's really, really good. Like, really good. And Cody Rhodes, since winning the title, has had what? A really good AJ Styles defense and then a bunch of nothing stuff in between until he started getting involved with the bloodline again. And
The
prior
stuff
to,
with Gunther's been fantastic.
well, yeah, okay, sure.
Um,
But that
but
just ended. It
but
just
yeah, that
ended and
just ended
it was over a belt
an
that
ugly belt.
they're not
So
going to touch for another year anyway.
yeah. I mean,
I would go with Triple H.
yeah, I'm going
And
with
I
Triple
that kind of pains me to say because Triple H is kind of a jerk. Like I don't really
H.
like Triple H the person. Like his booking is solid, but like I mean, I just keep going back to that scene with from Wrestling with Shadows where Julia Hart just reads him the riot act and he just stands there with his head in his hands, like oh yeah.
Mm,
Because he was the essentially the one who told Vince, oh well, why don't you just pull the trigger on the screw job? Like
yeah,
that's Triple H. Triple H is the guy who who broached the subject of the screw job. He's the guy who left China for the boss's daughter. Like these are
Yeah.
things that like I know that that's not supposed to weigh in here, and I think that me choosing Triple H to advance here proves that that's not weighing in here on my thought process for the purpose of this.
Hmm.
But let's not like act like you know like he's a bastard. Like
I mean, fair enough, but yeah, I got Triple H on this one too.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I love Cody Rhodes. I think he's an absolutely phenomenal ambassador for pro wrestling. Carries
Hmm.
himself like a star, like a real professional. Always puts his best foot forward. Here was one time he on his indie run, he was at our local promotion, and the ring broke during the match right before intermission. He gave up he gave up the pay that he was getting and donated it to our local indie fed so they could fix their ring. Like
Oh
he's a stand up guy, and also he solves racism. So I mean, there's that.
yeah.
But like Triple H in 2000, like man, that's a year right
Sure
there.
is.
He was, I mean, he never looked better. He never had better matches since then. He never, he was still selling at that point. He wasn't, he wasn't Reign of Terror Triple H. He wasn't,
Nah.
using his backstage sway to wage war on every ex WCW guy that came through. He was just having banger matches with Mick Foley, The Rock, and Steve Austin. Like
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really that 1 year will stand. I would put that up against most anybody's best year.
Yeah.
That good.
All
All right,
right.
next matchup is Randy Orton from '08 versus Kenny Omega from either 2018 or 2021. Take your pick.
2018 and
2018. Yeah,
2018, and it's Omega. Is this
yeah.
hard? It's not
No,
hard.
it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
I mean, the man broke Meltzer's star system. Okay.
Yeah,
He broke Meltzer's star system. That's enough. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even give Meltzer that much cred, but the man broke a whole star system. Okay.
Several
That's been
times.
like, yeah, several times. And it's been that star system, as much as I don't give him a lot of cred, has been around since the 80s. So, you
And I
know,
mean, the way I look at it too is like it's just one person's opinion.
yeah, it's just his
Like
opinion, but I mean, people look at it,
ultimately,
people respect it, I mean,
ultimately,
whatever.
if you're breaking your own system to accommodate for the value that you put into a match, there all you have to know about that, you don't have to have any other feelings towards it except that holy cow, this match must be amazing.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
And they were.
That's literally all you need to know.
They were.
And they
So,
were. Like,
yeah, real easy.
all right. Last second round matchup Sting from 1992 versus number 2 seed Seth Rollins, the only other person to make number one 3 times besides Cena. Seth Rollins in 2015, 2019, and 2023. It's definitely not 2019.
I would say let's go with 2015
Oof.
because
Let's go with
2023,
2015 as
neither,
the heist of the century, which I was there for.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a moment. I'm so glad I was part of that moment. Um the thing about it is Seth Rollins, aside from that moment, was still his character was still the chicken heel, surrounded by goons, having
Hmm.
great matches, but usually like I mean, his first defense was against Orton in a match where Orton couldn't use the RKO, and
Yeah.
so Seth used the RKO on him. Like, it was heel stuff, but it was crappy heel stuff. I mean, he did beat Cena to win the U.S. title and held both belts
Hmm.
at the same time that year, but it was because of Jon Stewart. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
I
like,
mean,
and then he broke his ankle trying
he's
to
kind of fragile.
power bomb Kane. Why the hell would you try to power bomb Kane?
I don't know. He's
You
kind of
are
fragile.
not big enough to power bomb Kane, Seth. You're 6'4". That's a big dude, but Kane is 300 pounds and 6'8". Don't do
Yeah.
that. Don't do that.
Well, he won't do it again, I guess. uh,
Better not. Jeez.
but yeah, so I mean, yeah, I still say 2015 is his best, but
That
I don't
being
know,
said,
man. That being said,
it's still a great year. It's
hmm,
still a great year. And it was still against guys that I think probably on the whole are probably going to be looked at more favorably than the guys Sting was facing in '92, with the possible exception of Flair towards the end.
yeah,
Like, I mean, everybody loves Mick Foley, but he was always the guy to work with the guy. He
hmm,
wasn't the guy to be the guy. Like I would, as I love Sting so much, but I'm gonna have to go Rollins here. I think
hmm,
I don't really see a good argument to keep 1992 staying in this position against
yeah,
2015 Seth Rollins.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Sting. I love you.
I'm a big Sting mark, but yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta give it to Seth on this one.
All right, all right, all right. So, third round,
All right.
first matchup: Shawn Michaels from 1996 versus Kazuchika Okada from 2017, where he had his legendary run against Kenny Omega with all the star breaking matches. I mean, that's rough, right? That's a tough decision, right?
It is.
Uh,
It's a tough one,
it is really tough.
but
Um,
there would have been no Okada and Omega without Shawn Michaels in 1996.
I don't know about that. I don't know how influential Shawn Michaels particularly was on Okada. I see elements of him in Kenny's work.
Uh-huh.
I don't really see a lot of elements of him in Okada's work.
Hmm.
Um, that's so. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to just discard that, but I don't want to adopt it out hand.
Hmm.
Out of hand either.
Now, I mean, it's a legendary run with Okada and Kenny.
Yeah,
It's a good year. I
yeah,
mean, Kenny won it like the very next year. You know,
yeah. He had
it.
matches with Shibata too, like real good matches with
I mean,
Shibata before his brain thing.
I just there's something about Shawn Michaels in '96, man, that
Yeah,
he ushered in an era.
that's what's making it difficult for me because I don't know. This is we've come to the point where I don't know whether I'm rating Shawn Michaels 1996 fairly or with nostalgia goggles on.
Hmm.
Like I could separate it for his the other matchups we've had so far. Now
Mhm.
though against Okada, it's making me wonder.
It's difficult. It really is. I mean, I can't discount Okada in the least. Um, but it's one year of a run against a year that subsequently brought us the Attitude Era and everything that
Yeah,
came after it. And that includes an American interest in New Japan.
yeah,
Everything that came after the Attitude Era. I mean, the Attitude Era is arguably the catalyst for everything. I mean,
yeah,
we can go back and talk about everything before that, but
yeah,
wrestling did not change into the sleek presentation and what it is today without 1996 WWF, and that means 1996 Shawn Michaels.
it's so tough. I
It's
oh
it's like this. It's a star breaking quality of matches versus the influential can opener.
yeah. Although that I don't we call that the influential can opener, if you will, because we have the benefit of hindsight. Who
Yeah,
knows how many little kids wound up watching Okada in 2017 and deciding that they were going to be just like him? We don't know that because they're not of age yet.
that's true.
Well,
That's true.
in Japan they are because they apparently don't have any child labor laws when it comes to pro wrestling.
Apparently not.
But we don't know of those people yet. And
No,
even if they were of age, they haven't been of age long enough to have any kind of legacy yet.
no.
So is that a fair comparison? I don't know.
Mm.
Like I this is where the span of time that the list covers comes into play and how
Mm.
much we have to give credence to it and how much we have to isolate within the years. I I want to say, as much as it hurts my heart, I want to say Okada because at the end of the day, Shawn Michaels in 1996, the reason that he was so insecure was because he wasn't drawing. Whereas Okada in 17 was bringing New Japan to new heights to the point where it was gaining interest in North America for the first time in decades.
That's fair.
And I think for that reason, I have to go Okada. And I love Shawn Michaels' work, and I particularly love his 1996. I already went over why,
Yeah.
but I think when you're just comparing, when you take out the influence part, because we don't know about Okada's 2017 influence yet. We won't
Mhm.
until another 10 years down the line, probably.
Yeah.
With benefit of that future hindsight. You isolate them in the year to year. And honestly, as great as Shawn Michaels was and as amazing as his title reign was, Okada had that great legendary. It was one series of matches he had this year that caused people to talk about Japanese wrestling in a way they hadn't done in this country for literal years. New Japan's new golden age. Now that that they dipped in the early 2000s, All Japan split off into Noah and all that stuff, and they were just really really down.
Mm.
Their downfall seemed to coincide with WCW's downfall. That partnership dissolved because WCW wasn't a thing anymore, and lots of people jumped ship to Noah. Even from New Japan, even though the exodus was from, the split essentially was All Japan and Noah, but they got a lot of New Japan guys too. Eventually,
Mm.
like it was a real downturn until for like 15 years until right around this time because of this guy.
Yeah.
So I have to go with Okada, man. I hate it. Not because I hate Okada, because I love Okada, but because I love Shawn Michaels. I hate doing that to the guy, but it's got to be Okada for me.
Okay. Now, Okada it is.
You know?
All right.
Oh, that hurt. That hurt. Oh, I'm feeling it.
Mm.
Next one, CM Punk's 2012 pitted against 1994 for Bret Hart. Oof, baboof.
I'm ready to hurt your heart again.
Jeez Louise. No contest, and Okada makes it to the finals. Uh, uh, Oh,
It's Punk.
it's got to be Punk, right?
It's got to be Punk, man. Character work.
Like
Let's
if
let's
this if
let's.
this was Bret Hart 1997, this would be a completely different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different. It wouldn't even be a question in my mind. But it's Bret Hart 1994,
Yeah.
and for the same reasons that Shawn Michaels goes down to Okada, Bret Hart has to go down to CM Punk.
Yep.
The drawing just wasn't there. Like the work rate was there, the stories were there, the audience just wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't connecting with enough people. The people were here, like me, it connected with, but people who were there who wanted to tune in just wasn't, and that affected the kind of year it was. And you know, what do you
Yep.
want, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just what it
All
is,
right.
man.
Now here's an interesting one though.
All right.
Steve Austin 1998 versus Triple H 2000. See, now this one's interesting because Steve Austin, you have him versus McMahon in the drive, starting the driving feud that would last for years and fuel the Attitude Era versus Triple H as a dominant heel champion running roughshod over two completely different scenarios. Ultimately, just completely different. I know who I would pick. Who would you pick?
I mean, it's Austin. It's Austin
Yeah,
all day.
yeah,
I don't think there's anything. I mean, Triple H 2000. That's a great year, but that's not
yeah.
Austin 98.
No, I mean, the people who are advancing could give him a run for his money here, but
But
not
yeah,
Triple H.
not Triple H. No,
No,
sorry.
no, you're right. It's Steve Austin. It's obviously Steve Austin for me. Like it's
Yeah,
I who had 1998 was a crazy freak in the air. Let me tell you.
yeah.
Um, so the finals of our quarterfinals are Kenny Omega from 2018,
Hmm.
right after when he wins the IWGP title, versus Seth Rollins 2015, where he wins the WWE title. This is also very interesting. Lots of parallels here to draw. Uh, I think I'm going to have to go with a similar rationale that I did with Bret Hart and Bryan Danielson. Seth Rollins didn't wrestle the whole year. His leg literally got cut out from under him.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Kenny.
I'm also going with Kenny for some fact that there is a lot of parallels you can draw, but one of them you can't draw is work rate. Sorry,
Yeah.
Seth, but you're not as good as Kenny is.
I would put him in a
And
similar category.
2015, I put him in similar, but 2015 Seth is not as good as 2018 Kenny. That no,
No, that's true.
they're closer now, but not
Yeah,
then. No,
yeah. I mean, Kenny Omega in 2018 was, I mean, to
ungodly.
steal a phrase from JBL, a wrestling god.
Yeah.
Like it was unheard of that he was becoming a household name in a completely foreign country on the other side of the world. He was still becoming a household name among wrestling fans in this country because
Mm-hmm.
of 2017 and 2018. Like it's kind of unheard of, really.
Yeah.
Like that's a
Yeah.
huge deal. Speaking of the other guy, we're
Mm-hmm.
into our semifinals here. Kazuchika Okada's 2017 stacking up against CM Punk's 2012.
And
Here we go.
um,
Both of these guys, for their grading period, were champions of their respective companies for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only time on this list where that's happened.
Well,
So that's big. Um, if you look at the quality of the opponents, though, it's pretty lopsided, and
okay.
it's lopsided towards Okada.
I mean, sure, sure.
That
Um,
being said, I don't think he has the diversity of opponents that CM Punk has this year, though. Like he's facing Cena, he's facing Ziggler that first part of the year, he's facing Jericho for a good portion of the year. He he wouldn't face The Rock that year, but he would. I mean, granted, he also faced Ryback, but he also uh, he was facing pretty much everybody WWE could throw at him.
mhm,
Um, both as heel and face too, which I think has to count for something.
mhm.
Like he was working both sides of
But
that.
it just I'm putting him over. I got Punk on this one, and the reason I do is for the same reason that I have him over Bret Hart. Is because I mean maybe this is language bias because I do not speak Japanese.
Neither do I.
But Punk does great character work, and Okada is funny because he says bitch, but that's now. I don't know about then. But I don't ever hear
He was,
anybody talk about how great of a character Okada was. They talk
yeah,
about his wrestling, and that's good and all, but Punk's a great wrestler too,
yeah.
and he has a great character work.
In New Japan, your character work matters less because they present it more as sport. Not that they don't have characters, not that
Mm-hmm.
they don't have silly stuff, not that they don't have weird stuff. Um, it's not to the level of DDT or anything like that, but like,
Yeah.
you still have your. I mean, it's the same company that used to host the Great Muta. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not unheard of them to go gimmicky. That being said, 2017 wasn't really a gimmick heavy year for them either. It was very much these are your guys.
Yeah.
These are not your characters. These are the guys we have. We have a lot of factions. We've got your
Mm-hmm.
Bullet Club. We've got your uh, Ingobernables de Japón. We have your that kind of stuff. But like, uh, what was Suzuki Goon? But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, those were less like wrestling stables, with the exception of Bullet Club. That was very much a wrestling stable, but the others were more like an
Gyms.
MMA fighter's gym. Yeah,
Yeah, like
like
a gym.
it was more like Jackson or you know American Top Team or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was more of a flag that you waved than a character you had.
Yeah. But I got Punk on this one. That's easy enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning Okada, but because those matches with Omega are just so not only good but important. But you're talking an overall year.
Yeah.
Okada, he had some diversity, but his year was the story of his year was the through line with Kenny, which is a great story. But
Mm-hmm.
the climax didn't even come until 2018 when Omega finally won.
Yeah.
Whereas Punk got to do a lot more stuff and be a lot more versatile and was on top the whole time as well. I think you're right. I think we go with Punk by just the
Just a little bit.
slimmest of margins, man.
Yeah.
Like it's like you couldn't fit a hair through that margin.
No, no, you couldn't. It's just a little bit, but it is just enough. Like, yeah. I'm gonna pause real quick. Give me just a sec. All right.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna give it a couple of minutes just in case it does it on this end too. So a
Yeah.
pause as opposed to a beginning.
All
All
right.
right. So other
Punk on that
semifinal
one.
match. Steve Austin,
Mm-hmm.
1998 versus Kenny Omega from 20 years later.
Whew.
Ooh, you got similar scenario to the last one.
Mm-hmm. I
And
do.
because of that, I think I'm leaning Austin.
I mean, it is just okay. I'll just talk about something for Austin that I haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
There was nothing to this day still nothing like the fervor of the crowd when Stone Cold Steve Austin arrived. There's just nothing. Nobody. I have not felt that since. I have felt close, but I haven't.
Yeah.
No, I'm just I like it's this is. I mean, it might be foreshadowing a little bit, but it's just really hard to beat Stone Cold in 1998, man. Like it's
Yeah.
difficult to beat that man. And as much as I have respect for Omega and his 2018, I don't think 20 years on, I still don't think he created the kind of feeling and the kind of atmosphere that Stone Cold created.
Yeah.
It was just something different.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. I mean, like I said, for reasons, I would be a hypocrite if I were to put Omega over here, given the reasoning that we put CM Punk over just a second ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I have to be uh consistent. And also, like, it's different with Austin too, because Steve Austin literally helmed. He was the most important babyface character in the most successful period of well, most popular period of
Yeah.
professional wrestling history worldwide, not just
Mm-hmm.
in Japan, not just in North America, worldwide. Stone Cold Steve Austin started that in 1998. I would say that their creative was probably better by 2000 than 1998. 99 was
Mm-hmm.
kind of but 2000 was great from a creative standpoint. 98 wasn't quite as good there, but you had Steve Austin at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason that he's the guy, man. He's the guy. He's the guy who pretty much put that company on his back, turned the war around against WCW,
Mm-hmm.
and led WWF to heights unseen. Now they're more profitable now. They're a worldwide, publicly traded company. They're a worldwide corporation, you know, but like not many people are watching wrestling now. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because you don't have Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like you can talk about how the only important number is the demo all you want, but there
Mm.
were far more eyeballs on wrestling when Steve Austin was on than when anybody else was,
Yeah.
and that's just a fact. Like
Yeah.
for the sake of this, that what we're doing here, the demo doesn't matter.
No.
The eyeballs matter. The popularity matters
Yeah.
overall, and that goes to Steve Austin. That doesn't go to Kenny Omega. Like Kenny can't. He can boast all the 5+ star matches he wants. He doesn't have that.
No.
He doesn't have. Nobody has the drawing power of Steve Austin.
No.
Not even the guy he's going to face in the finals. Now,
Nope.
that being said, CM Punk in 2012 versus Steve Austin in 1998. Yeah.
So much. I mean, so much we've gone over with both of these guys over the course of this tournament. But honestly, um, I am the biggest of CM Punk marks,
I know.
but the best in the world is not the Texas Rattlesnake. I'm sorry. Um, I would love if somebody from WWE here's how we can prove it. Ready for this? If somebody from WWE really is listening to this podcast, let's get CM Punk booked against Steve Austin for WrestleMania, please. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
they both would want to do it.
yeah,
They
I'm
would
sure
absolutely do it.
they'd love it. Because they could do it just the same way they did with Kevin Owens, and just make it a brawl and not really too much of a match,
Yeah,
and I mean, it'd be great. But
yeah, but you know how you pull it off? You'd have
mm,
to turn Punk heel because nobody's
yeah,
going to cheer him.
oh yeah, no one will cheer him against Cena, and there we go.
Yeah,
If these two guys, even in these eras, from if these two guys from these specific years showed up for a match at WrestleMania this year, Austin would be the face.
yep,
And that's good enough reason for me to say that this has got to be Austin. And it
yep.
has to be.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Honestly, I think you did. So we have our winner, and the according to PWI, the best wrestler ever,
Stone Cold
Stone
Steve.
Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah. Stone Cold. I once I saw his name on this bracket, I was like, he's probably gonna win.
I mean, he was always going to be a favorite at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But what do you guys think? Did we get it wrong? Did we miss something? Did you want us to cover different stuff? What did you think? Let us know.
Yeah. Hit our
Let us
socials
know.
or comments below in the YouTube videos when those go up. And as always, we'll be up and going before Raw this week, and we'll see you before Raw next week.
Yeah. All right. Have a great week, guys. We will talk to you next.
Peace.
Peace.